Welcome to the Fortified podcast, where we take a stand against domestic violence, and we survivors have a voice. Please welcome our hosts, JT, Stephanie, Jenn, and special guest, JT's better half and loving wife, Amanda!
Hey guys, welcome back to the Fortified podcast. My name is Steph. I'm here with my brother John and sister Jenn, and our special guest, our sister-in-law Amanda. Jenn's going to continue on with her story, and so I'm going to pass you off to her. She's going to give a little recap, and we're going to get into it.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I don't exactly remember where we left off, but I had been in by this time it was about 18-year marriage, with a man that was several years older than me. Not terrible. And I don't even think that matters, honestly. But anyway, lots of very subtle, controlling, manipulative kind of dynamics for most of the marriage. I felt, to sum it up, I just felt small and insignificant and stupid, really. I just didn't feel like I was anything more than just a doer. And after a while, some bad things happened in life, as they do, and I ended up leaving Wisconsin, where we lived, and moving in with my parents with our 5 children to get away for a while. After a few months, I brought him there to try to work on things, hoping that we can salvage this marriage and keep our family intact. After a brief time of what I thought was healing, everything kind of got turned on me and took a really quick nosedive, and that's pretty much when there was definitely a change of phase, like abuse phase, and things got really bad. He pretty much destroyed every relationship I had, destroyed my family relationship, got me fired from my job. We ended up leaving Pennsylvania, and that's where John and Amanda come into the story. Thanksgiving came around while still in Pennsylvania, and we were kind of telling them the things that we were experiencing with mine, John and Steph's parents, and my husband at the time always framed everything as their fault, and they were doing things to us, and they were being manipulative and just attacking, and they didn't want to see us succeed. In fact, they were actively trying to destroy our family, which couldn't be further from the truth. So, but we posed what was going on that way to John and Amanda over Thanksgiving, and by Christmas, everything really blew up, and John and Amanda invited us to come on and stay with them. I think you guys kind of thought you were rescuing us a little bit, maybe. Yes? No?
I think in some way that was the feeling based on the information we had at the time. Yeah. Some of it made sense. The part about, as your ex-husband was trying to explain how, like, our stepmother was deceitful and manipulative and all this other stuff, and how dad was not standing up to her. Like, some of the stuff that was said, like, I saw as like made sense just because of our experiences that we had when we were kids, but I never like physically, or I never witnessed that type of what he was talking about. I never witnessed it personally, like growing up, in the detail that he was explaining it. So I'm like, well, this kind of makes sense. And given that, you both were kind of telling us what was going on, we're like, yeah, if I was in their shoes, shoot, I wouldn't want to stay there, and like get the heck out. So yeah, I think in some ways it's like, I don't remember I don't know if trying to remember the conversation I had with the initial conversation I had with Amanda about like having you guys just stay with us with the intention of just like, it's not a visit. You're just, you're packing up and you're moving into our house until you get back up on your feet. And I can't remember the defining point of that conversation. I don't know if, Han, do you remember that?
I don't remember exactly, but I think it was when they came for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then they were going to go and get their stuff and come back.
Well, I was trying to figure out, like, I can't remember, and this is so long ago, like, if you remembered the conversation between me and you that happened, like, did I have, I don't think I had to convince you. I think you were just like, okay, sure, whatever, this should be fun.
Yeah, basically.
So, but in any case, yeah, it kind of felt that way. Like, yep, let's help them out because you guys were there for me when I needed it after I got out of the military and moved to Wisconsin. So I'm like, well, let's just pay it forward, pay it back, and like, yeah, this is a way for me to like be in a position to help the people who helped me out when I needed it. So that's kind of where I was coming from.
Yeah, and I mean that's really how it felt. We did feel like you guys were rescuing us in a way. So we did. I mean, there was a huge blow up. There was a huge blow up on Christmas and completely instigated by the blow up was instigated by my husband. He came after our youngest sister for a text message that he sent to our older daughter. And yeah, he came after her. Of course, he was calm but confronting. And she just is not the type that will accept that and just back down. And especially when she sees that somebody's doing something wrong, she's gonna, she'll hold her ground. So she fought right back, and that invited our stepmom to get involved, because you're not going to talk to my daughter like that in my house when clearly you're in the wrong. Especially, he starts yelling back at our stepmother, which invited, of course, our dad to get involved. So everybody's screaming at each other downstairs. The kids and I are upstairs in the bedroom, just kind of like listening to all this happening. And he came back up. Mind you, he recorded the whole thing too on his phone, made sure to record it all, which by this point he was in the habit of doing. And came back up into the bedroom, and instead of being like in that anger momentum, like you normally would be when you're in an argument with somebody, he was kind of chuckling, like almost laughing. And that always struck me as kind of weird, but it was like he was proud of himself for stirring this up, for making it come out and just kind of, stirring the pot there. I don't know what he was thinking, but that's just how it came across.
I know what that is. That is somebody that is so arrogant and full of themselves that they think they think everybody else is beneath them. And so when the argument was happening, and then that whole like like chuckling when he came up, that shows the amount of like arrogance and disrespect and all that. He thinks that everybody that he just talked to is beneath his level of understanding, and he just found it funny that it ended the way it ended, and nothing really got resolved because they weren't mature enough to kind of rise to his level of wisdom and really just work out like what really happened and kind of like submit to like, you did me wrong, and apologize. So I know what it is, because I've been there myself, like back in my day. Like, it's like when you talk to somebody that's in your mind dumber than you, and they just can't understand, and they get you fired up, you just kind of walk away from that conversation, be like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like,
poor little peons.
Yes, exactly.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh.
Right.
They'll get there someday, but for now, I'm just going to chuckle this off. That's what that is. Just,
yeah. He said, he made a comment or two, something like, now it's on, as he's chuckling, now it's on. And I'm just like, what is why is this funny? Why is this a good thing? Anyway, so we talked, closed the door, talked. Everybody went to bed. It's late. I mean, this blow up happened around midnight,
Wow.
maybe a little bit before midnight. And so it's late. And we spent the next couple of hours in the bedroom with all the kids talking and just he was replaying a whole bunch of stuff that, well, Nani and Papa are this way and they said this and they did this and they're actively trying to destroy us. And can you believe that, kids? And, your dad, he did all this he was almost dead and he, did all this to rebuild and get his health back and fix relationships with you guys. And can you just believe that Nani and Papa want to destroy that? Like, why would they want to do that? And so that was the next couple of hours. And then discussing that at some point, I don't think it had to have been around that time. I mean, this all happened so fast. We were just at you guys' house the day before. And so at some point he said, well, John and Amanda invited us to come to their house. And Amanda texted me and said that she worked out how they would house all of us. And she knows she's got a plan. And isn't that so amazing that, your brother's wife, who, I mean, she knows me a little bit and she knows you and but, it's not like she's not close with us like John is close with us, So isn't that so sweet that she went out of her way to figure out house arrangements for us? And he was just singing her praises that whole time, which now is very ironic.
Keep
Yeah, right?
that in the back of your mind as we progress forward.
Yes.
Yes. So we decided, okay, let's do this. Let's just pack up and let's move to Ohio. Well, it's like 2:00 in the morning now, and he's thinking that we're just gonna all start packing immediately, and we're gonna take a couple hours to pack, and we're gonna quietly sneak out of the house, and we're going to everybody's gonna wake up in the morning, and we're just gonna be gone. Our rooms cleaned, everything, just disappear, and they're gonna be like, whoa, what did we do?
Was that his goal? Was
Yeah,
that his
that
goal
was
to
what he
throw
wanted.
them off? Oh my gosh, that's like
Oh
when
yeah,
you're
he
a little
wanted us
kid
to he definitely wanted us to leave in the middle of the night, sneak out.
because he wanted that wow factor in the morning.
I think so, yeah. Well, thinking back on it now, I mean, I didn't think of this then, of course, but thinking back on it now, that's what he experienced.
Yeah.
I left with the kids from Wisconsin and he woke up to everybody's gone
Yeah.
and whatever went through his head, so he wanted them to experience the same
That.
thing.
Yeah.
That was completely impractical. I mean, we didn't just have a couple of suitcases, overnight bags to pack up. We had been living there for now
Yeah.
6 months. Like he
Right.
was there less time, but the kids and I had been there since June. So this was no small couple hour feat. So, and then we were exhausted and I'm like, we just drove 10 hours 2 days ago to spend Christmas Eve with John and Amanda. Spent Christmas Eve, then drove another 10 hours back to back, to come back here to make it back for Christmas dinner. I'm still exhausted from all of that. And now you want us to not sleep tonight and then drive another 10 hours. What is wrong with you? And he's all like, oh, I'm fired up. I can do it. I'm like, that's great that you're fired up and you can do it. And you have insomnia, so you don't need sleep. But I am not. No, I can't. It wouldn't even be safe for me to drive a car right now. We had 3 vehicles to trek back. So Nehemiah had a car and I had a car and he had his minivan. So he agreed to let's everybody go to sleep. We'll get up early in the morning and we'll pack and we'll leave. And we just won't say anything to them. And if they ask questions, we'll just, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to keep packing. And so we got up. Okay, we probably went to bed at 2:30ish. We got up at 6. Started packing. It took us all day to pack. We didn't leave until dinner time. So how we were going to sneak out in the middle of the night, whatever.
Right.
That would have never worked. But he and dad had a conversation right before we left. I don't remember what that was. But he then told, this was part of their conversation. I know that he said that, well, everybody appreciates that you let us stay here for a while. It's just time for us to go. And I'll have all the kids and everybody, say their goodbyes and tell you thank you. And he was just like, okay, but don't force them. I mean, only if they want to, kind of thing. So, of course, he came out, talked to us. So literally, we all sat down in the living room to have a little goodbye chat. We all had to tell them something that we learned while in the time that we were there, and how much we appreciated them and their kindness for letting us stay there. And I mean, mind you, the night before, he just told all the kids how
All
terrible they
that bad
were.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and how they were actively trying to destroy our family. And so then the kids
Wow.
had to come up with, like, reasons to appreciate them all of a sudden. I mean, it was very confusing for the kids because none of them felt the
Yeah.
way toward Nani and Papa that he wanted them to actually legitimately feel. Like, they were just confused. And
Right.
so, they all came up with something. I don't even remember what everybody said, but everybody said something. Dad said something. Charles said something. And, I just remember that, as we were leaving, she gave me, our stepmom gave me a hug and just kind of whispered in my ear, like, don't worry, we'll eventually heal from this. It was something to that effect. I don't remember all the words. And I was just, at that point, I was just like, oh, whatever, because, I had been, even though I didn't buy into all of it and I didn't think it was all their fault, I was quite brainwashed and was definitely, for the most part, against them. So, we drove to your house, and I remember we had to stop several times because I just couldn't drive anymore. I just needed to sleep for 30 minutes or something. So there was 2-3 times at least that we stopped. I think a 10-hour trip turned into 12 or something ish like that. So, but we got to your house and you guys, had everything ready, and um man, that whole part is like a blur, honestly.
Part's a blur to me too. Like,
Yeah.
that's that time in my life is like, if your subconscious takes bad memories and like puts them in the back of the vault, but instead of like the vault where you see the big vault door, you walk in the big vault door and then there's another vault door that you walk in. It put those memories in that vault and then lock that vault and then lock the front vault and then change the combination. So it'd be really hard for me to go access those memories. That's like what my subconscious did. And now now I'm asking my brain to go, hey, go open that up. It's okay. We're good. Go open the secondary vault up and let's bring some of those out because we're talking about them now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, when you guys got there, I'm having a hard time recalling. Like, I'm sure it's this way for you, and I'm sure it's this way for Amanda too. Like, it's just kind of a blur. Like,
Yeah.
there's pockets that pop up, pockets of memories that pop up that were significant, but like, do you like recall when you guys got there? Yeah, everybody's getting settled in, and I was working a lot because I was in the production business, so I was out of town a lot, worked in Louisville a lot, so I wasn't home traditionally every day at 5:00 after work. Sometimes I stayed in Louisville because we just had to because we ran the convention center down there. But showed everybody where everything is, showed everybody where the fridge is, and then at some point, like the first couple of days seemed fine. Like, we were just all trying to figure out how to make 10 people live in this little small 3-bedroom house. And the kids started, I mean, he started going through and doing like chore lists for the kids and all this other stuff, and which was fine. And me, like I said, I was there and gone a lot. So, and there wasn't, this is before the text messages really started rolling in. But one of the memories that won't escape my brain was when he did text me to ask me if he could hang a whiteboard in the kitchen. And I was like, sure, okay, go ahead. And he said it was for his family meetings. I was like, okay, hang a whiteboard, I guess. And I was probably a mistake, but I know to this day I can't have a whiteboard in my house because of that.
They are banned.
They're banned in my house. So I cannot have
That's
whiteboards
funny.
anymore because of that. But again, those memories are like very foggy, and my timeline is all messed up about when certain things happen. But from the time, because that was what,
December
shortly
26th is when we moved in.
Shortly after Christmas. Yeah, because y'all's stay with us only lasted, well, his stay with us only lasted till about mid-February. So for the audience that's listening or watching this, everything we're about to discuss happened between December 26th and February 16th, 17th,
Yeah,
somewhere
19th, yeah, something like that.
somewhere around
18th in that week.
Yep. Somewhere around the mid-February, shortly after Valentine's Day. So just keep that in mind, that in just 6 weeks, 6-ish weeks, everything we're about to discuss happened within a 6-week period. But when you guys first got there, everything was great. I felt really warm and fuzzy inside because I was doing my part, paying y'all back for helping me out, taking me in. I was feeling good that I was doing the right thing. And somewhere along the way, things started going south. But before we get to the south part, when did you guys, there is a hamster. I do want to talk about the hamster story. I do, because I think it's relevant.
Why?
Because I think it's relevant. Like the hamster story and what happened with my cat. And I think that's relevant because I think that was a critical point when things started to go downhill, not because of the hamster, but like, that's when some of the things were starting to get weird with like the reasons why so I want to get into this hamster story real quick. So did you guys bring the hamster with you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So the hamster came with them as a pet. Okay, great. I don't know why y'all got a hamster. I don't know when y'all got a hamster.
It was from Wisconsin. It was her pet that she bought in Wisconsin, brought it to Pennsylvania, and then, it came with us.
Okay. So they bring this hamster with them, and it's fine, whatever. Nobody, we didn't really care about the hamster. We had 2 cats at the time, and so they bring this hamster with them, and obviously, if you have a hamster in an open cage, because it wasn't in like a glass cage, it was in an open, like sort of like a dog
cage.
Yeah, but we have 2 cats, so cats, hamsters, you could see where this is going. So one day, right, one of our cats, was it Tori? I think it was Tori.
I think it was, yeah.
Tori.
It was Tori.
Because we had lost Hazel. Hazel was lost at this point, and I'll get to the point. So Tori, a cat, the hamster was on the floor, in the cage on the floor, open cage on the floor. And I know he texted me like a day or 2 before and said that like Tori was befriending the hamster because she was like pawing at him and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking in my head, bro, Tori's not trying to paw the hamster. Tori's trying to grab the hamster. But he thought it was like she was just playing because Tori missed Hazel. Hazel was the one cat who got away. And he texted me that Tori was missing Tori was missing Hazel, so she was befriending the hamster. We'll just call the hamster Doug. So the hamster's name was, Tori was trying to befriend Doug. Well, Tori ended up eating Doug. Okay. It just flat out just like ate Doug right there. Left some of the entrails in the cage, but ate Doug, right? Which I'm not going to blame my cat for, because that's what cats do. They eat hamster looking like critters, mice, hamsters, rats, whatever. They will eat them. In what world do you live in? Do you think a cat is going to be friends with a hamster? Anyway, so I get this text because I'm down in Louisville, and it's this long text about how Tori's not to blame for this, and she's just emotional because she misses Hazel, but Tori ate, and I remember him texting me this, he said Tori ate the hamster, and the text was like all like sad, but I was in the background just busting out laughing, like, of course Tori ate the freaking hamster. And the fact that you used the excuse of why that happened because Tori missed Hazel, that's when kind of the crazy, that's when, at least in my mind, that's when some of the crazy started. That's where it started. It was the whole Tori hamster ordeal. And Hon, I don't know if you can lend any more context to this, because you were probably home, or you were there when this stuff was going on. I was gone, but I don't know. Can you lend any more context to that story?
Not really to that story. No, you got most of the texts. I don't even know. I don't even remember what we talked about, honestly, with the hamster.
I remember he turned it into a big spiritual lesson, and he said, I remember part of what he texted you, John, was that, it's all good because God is using this in your sister's life to teach her a lesson. And, I don't know, everything was good because this was a major teaching point. Yeah.
That was just one of the first, like, not heavy memories that I recalled. It still got weird because he was talking about, I know that he had asked me, there was a not a skunk, it was a
raccoon.
raccoon hanging out around our backyard, and he noticed the raccoon, and he's like, do you have like a pellet gun or whatever? I'm like, yeah, I got a pellet gun, and he's like, hey, if can I, like, if you want me to get rid of that problem for you, I'll get rid of that problem for you. I'm like, you do you, brother, like, whatever you do you, like, I don't have time to mess with the raccoon, because at that house, raccoons got in our trash. They got in everything in that house. I remember one time, like, raccoons got in the trash can, and like I went to open up the trash can, and there's a stinking raccoon yelling at me to shut the door in my trash can. And so they were bad there. So I remember, like, the raccoons, he texted me about a pellet gun, and I didn't have the right size, like, pellets for the pellet gun, and that turned into a text message about how I'm unprepared in life. And mind you, this is before anything like really bad happened, or like before, like, I started realizing that this guy is an abuser and he's nuts. But that turned into, like, you're not prepared. And if you're not prepared in this area of your life, having the right size pellets for your pellet gun to take care of a rodent problem, how you expect to be prepared as a father with a young daughter? I mean, he turned this into, like, having the wrong size pellets for my pellet gun that I've never, don't really even shoot, to, like, how I'm currently inadequate as a father, spiritual leader, and husband. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I just remember that raccoon. He set up some bait traps, and he literally sat there and waited for that raccoon, and he killed that raccoon. And he texted me that he got that raccoon, and at least, and he wanted to know, he said something about grilling up the raccoon he just killed. He just grilling it up and all that. But I was gone in Louisville this whole time, so I'm like getting these text messages about him killing the raccoon. I'm like, great, brother, you killed a raccoon. But I think it was more for the life lesson that he was trying to teach me at the time. But I do remember the raccoon story. So you were shaking your head. No, he never killed the raccoon. So he never killed the raccoon?
No. Gosh, the raccoon story. Hazel was gone. we had been trying to find Hazel. This was going on 2 weeks, I believe. And he was just sure, because we were praying for Hazel to come back. God was going to send Hazel back. And he was convinced that the raccoon, God wants to bring Hazel back, and Hazel wants to come back. But the raccoon has been hanging around the house, and Hazel's afraid because this raccoon is bigger than her and it's going to hurt her. So, to your point about turning it into a lesson, everything had to be a lesson. Everything was a lesson, a life lesson, a spiritual lesson. Everything was a lesson. So, he had us waiting up for this raccoon. He wanted us to sit and watch out the door for this raccoon all night. One of the boys kind of hung with us and was like, yeah, let's get this raccoon. I don't remember if it was Joe or Judah, one of them. But, it didn't last very long. You're sitting there staring out the window. And we were right out the patio window, and he was all set up with the, he was going to take the shot, and like he was talking about we're going to kill this thing and we're going to eat it. And I'm like, heck no, we're not going to eat this thing. You don't know what disease a raccoon has. Like, we're not going to eat it. I don't care what you say. We're not eating this raccoon. Go ahead and eat it if you want to, but I am not eating it, and I am not feeding it to our children. So, but we waited up for a while. I'm not staying up all night. I think I hung out till some, 2:00 in the morning or something like that. And I went to bed. I wasn't going to wait for this raccoon. So, but he never killed the raccoon. No, that did not happen. So if he told you that he got the raccoon, he absolutely 100% lied to you. He did not kill the raccoon. He never got the raccoon. Hazel never came back. And that was because some or all of us lacked faith that God would bring the raccoon back. I'm pretty sure he blamed that one on Amanda, that Amanda didn't have faith that God would bring Hazel back. And so between when he couldn't blame the raccoon, it was, lack of faith. But yeah, he never killed it. No. Mm-mm.
When did because I did mention the whiteboard. When did the family meeting start?
So that takes us back to the beginning of when we so this is a great get off the bunny trail signpost there. Yes. So, and you had been trying to remember when things kind of started to get weird, when it went from this is good to, oh, this is just weird. It took about a week I think we were in visit mode for a week. Our oldest daughter was there, and this was before she had gone back. So we told her that she didn't have to move to Ohio with us because we didn't want to take her away from her school and her friends and her boyfriend, and like I did. I took her away from Wisconsin. She's lost all that and got really hurt, right? So Dad isn't going to do that to you. Not like Mom did. So you don't have to move with us. But she came with us to visit, like as a holiday visit, to see you guys and be with the family over the holidays. Because, we were planning on having a fun week leading up to New Year's. And I remember that all went fine. And I remember a couple of conversations that he and her had. And I think you and her and him even sat around a table one night and, we're talking and whatever. That went fine. And then we sent her back to Pennsylvania. And then things started to get really weird. I remember he wanted to have a family meeting, but at that point it was the whole household was the family meeting. So he wanted all of us, especially the 4 adults, to get together and kind of determine like a hierarchy and who was going to have what authority and responsibilities, and how are we going to dole all of this out, and what kids are going to clean what. Let's make sure everybody's pitching in because, 10 people in the house. We want to make sure that we're all pitching in and making this go as smoothly as possible. So he wanted to name you like CEO of your household, and you had he he propped John up as the one who was the top, and everything had to go through him. And if we wanted to do anything, we had to get permission from Uncle John, because it's his house. He's the man of the house, and then him. And then Amanda and I were just kind of like on the same level as the kids. So the whiteboard came about a week into our visit. The whiteboard came, and I remember the first all family meeting we were supposed to have. It ended up being he got so mad because Amanda had planned with the kids to do some fun things, like we're gonna bake some cookies, I don't even remember all the things. We're gonna play some games, we're gonna play with Play-Doh, we're gonna do fun things, and she was gonna specifically wanted to bake cookies with the kids, cut out cookies, and she continued with her plan. It was her house. She made the plans. He kind of just conveniently forgot about the plans, or completely just put them off because he wanted to have a family meeting instead. So he's sitting here waiting for Amanda to come over to the table to have this family meeting, and she's just continuing making cookies. And she was kind of like, I can hear you guys. I'll pipe up if I need to. And I know, John, you were there. I just don't remember you talking very much. Maybe you were just on like FaceTime or something. It was almost like you were there, but not. So were you there? The very first meeting, she was baking cookies with the kids. I don't think you were there. I think you were on the
honestly
phone.
don't know. I just know that I knew really bad he wanted me to sit down at the table, and I wasn't going to do it. I don't know if you were there.
I feel
don't
like you were maybe
recall.
on speakerphone or something.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
I don't
really
recall.
mad. He was really mad, and I kept telling him, like, look, this is her house, and she made plans with the kids, and you just kind of took over. So just
Right.
let her do her thing. Like we're in the same room.
Yeah, seriously.
He was so mad, and I really think that's when the tables turned, and you went from this, kind, gracious person who went out of your way to take us in to, she's this self-centered, stuck-up B-word, and
and she lets her emotions control her.
Yeah, and that's when in his eyes you and John had major problems, and your household was upside down, and John needed to take control of the situation, to be the man in his house. So that's when the whiteboard started. It was right away. And actually that's when everything happened. It took him 1 week to turn a good situation on its head, and from that point on it was never good after that. And in fact, it exponentially got worse as time went on. And like when you warned the audience that, hey, this time period is 6 weeks, I just want people to notice the progression here. Because this is how it happens, I think, in a lot of relationships. It started out seemingly normal. I just thought that he was kind of type A personality and a strong leader when I married him. So it took, 18 years. The slow build was 18 years. And then from Wisconsin, the Pennsylvania time was 6 months, my whole Pennsylvania time. And then the Ohio time with John and Amanda was 6 weeks. So we're progressively getting worse. 18 years, 6 months got progressively worse. I remember in Pennsylvania thinking I would trade what was going on in Wisconsin any day for what's happening right here. And then when we got to Ohio and things exponentially got worse very, very, very a lot faster, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, Pennsylvania was a breeze compared to this. So, if you're stuck in some kind of dynamic like this, like the things that we're discussing, I just really want you to be honest with yourself and say, there's progression, there's phases. We definitely kept crossing lines and moving into a new phase every single time. Things kind of changed, and I could see the cycle get faster and faster and harder, and just there was just that will keep happening. That's a thing. I don't have the definitions. Maybe Steph does because she is more versed in all these tactics, but that's a thing to where like the train just continues to accelerate more and more and more, and it's not at an even pace, it's at a exponentially growing pace.
Yeah, but
If
it
you don't
wasn't
cut it
like,
off,
and it
then
wasn't all bad though. There was like I think two sides to this whole thing, because at first, from my perspective, like y'all were getting groceries and cooking dinner, and I remember him asking something like, "Hey, I notice Amanda like sweeps the floor every day," and I'm like, "Well, she doesn't really walk around the house with her shoes on. She likes to walk around and socks and bare feet on a clean floor." And then he took that and goes, "Okay, we're going to take that off her plate. I'll have the boys sweep the floor every day. What time she get home from work?" And I told her she typically 6:30, she's home from work. And he's like, "All right, I'm going to make sure the boys have the floor swept and everything, perfect for when she comes home." And I remember this is him saying, "We're going to do this for you." This wasn't me like demanding that any of this was done, just because we had the extra help in the house. There wasn't like, at least I don't recall that me demanding like, "Oh yeah, like floors have to be swept, walls have to be washed, and doggone it, if I put my hand behind the toilet sink and if I find some toothpaste behind there, then all hell's gonna break loose. I need like." I don't remember me putting any type of restriction like stipulations like that on. It was him coming to me going, we want this, we want to honor Amanda and her, and her role and her house, and just make sure that it's clean when she gets home. And I was like, cool. But
yeah,
that
I had all those demands. And
yeah.
he told the whole family that I demanded all that stuff.
hmm And it wasn't either of you. There was an amount of uh, recognizing that, you guys lived a certain way and had certain routines and things. And you liked, like, for example, you liked a clean floor and that was important to you because you wanted to walk around with no shoes on. I get it. And so there was a couple of days of recognizing those kinds of things. And then we both wanted to make this coexistence as smooth as possible. So, yeah, 5 kids, like, going from 1 kid in the house to now 6, we wanted, or actually 5, yeah, 'cause, oldest daughter stayed. But anyway, we wanted to make sure that we were doing our part to try to make it like we weren't even there, cleanliness-wise. So, yes, not all of it was bad. It's just that all the good was used against everybody. All the good was not only a trophy to put in his, like a feather to put in his hat, but it was used against us and used against you guys and definitely turned around. Now he refers to that time period as you guys basically being like Hitler and, she demands all this stuff and it's just ridiculous and wasn't anything like that. Um, yeah, but the whole time wasn't bad. And I think that's what made it hard. That's what made it extremely confusing. That's what made it so dangerous because, if something gets really bad really fast and it's all bad, you can pretty easily see that. Even if you're brainwashed, you can see that something just changed. Something shifted in the air and now it's really bad and, you know, you can at least see it, that something's really bad even if you don't know what to do about it. But there was a cycle of good, over the top good, like love bombing, where everybody was awesome. He and that those were your text messages where you got how where he was uplifting you as the man of the house and you're doing such a great job and, whatever, whatever. Like that's the raising up time period. And he did the same thing to me. I recognized that it was like a couple day the cycle for me. It was like 2 days of niceness and the next 5 days of increasingly meanness. And then there would be some kind of like crescendo point, and then we would go back into the niceness. And it was 2 days of nice, 5 days of bad. So, but every single time, all of the bad times, I'm like, man, if this gets good again, I'm gonna make sure that I don't make any mistakes. I'm gonna have a good attitude. I'm gonna have a smile on my face, and whether I'm exhausted or not, I'm gonna be peppy and I'm gonna be everything he wants, so that I can just hold on to this good period longer, and it doesn't have to. I don't make him mad again, because I thought it was me every time, just making him mad about something, some stupid thing. It was always some dumb thing. I could never do anything right. So we were always getting into this, and it was always apparently my fault.
When because I'm recalling, there's another instance I'm recalling with there's the whole cases upon cases of Monster energy drinks, which are prohibited in my house.
Rock stars.
Rock stars, not monsters, rock stars. That's right. So I can drink Monsters, but I can't have them in the house, and I only have maybe one a month. But they're not allowed in my house. There's no rock star. If it says rock star on it, it's like, oh, cannot have rock star. So, like, I recall cases of rock stars, probably because he couldn't sleep, or I don't know what the reasons for rock stars were. But then we started noticing, or at least maybe it was Amanda that brought it up, the vodka and the alcohol in the bottles. And like, was that right away? Did that start, or is that after post move in? Or I don't even know if he did that in Pennsylvania or not. But when did that, is that in line with the timeline of like 2 days nice, 5 days of mean? Was his mean cycle when he was drinking, or was his nice cycle when he was drinking, or was this pre-drinking?
This was actually didn't really have anything to do with drinking, because he did it all the time. By the time we got to your house, he felt like, I mean, we couldn't do that in Pennsylvania. Absolutely not. I think there was a couple of times that they went out for the night that he bought a couple of drinks that we had something. I remember he used to make this chocolate thing with brandy. That was actually very good. But I remember when we moved in with you guys, he was like, oh, we could do whatever we want now. Like, we're free, And he, if he didn't start right away, it was extremely soon, like maybe after that first week or two that the alcohol started. And I remember Amanda must have found something at one point and said something, or you said something, you know, he didn't like that, but he was going to respect you for it. And Amanda, had a bad experience with it growing up, and she just can't handle it. So we need to at least keep it secret from her, not let her know, just keep it away from her. And I remember walking through Walmart one day, and he was like, well, I don't know. What do you think we should do? Should we just hide it and keep drinking, or should we just stop? I'm like, what should we do? And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure I said, like, on one hand, they're probably right about this, that, and the other thing. On the other hand, at that time, I didn't think there was a problem. So, it's their house. We probably should just, I remember like going through this thing with him, of like what's right and wrong. And gosh, it was constant. It wasn't just, I guess at first, I mean, it did get worse as the time went on. It just wasn't really connected to the cycle at all. because it would be every day, no matter where we were in the cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, h- h- hon, how? Because you're the first one that kind of noticed it, right? So, like, I'm trying to recall if you noticed it, and then you talked to me, then we talked to them, or kind of like your perspective on drinking in the house. You know, I know we had Addison and stuff back then. So, like, what was your perspective back then when we were going through that whole drinking phase in the house?
I noticed really early on. I don't know. So the whole timeline of I just feel like the timeline is kind of like all blurry right now. Like they moved in, it was great. We started family meetings. He tried to like start running the house. Something about smoke detectors and they opened the door and Hazel ran away. So for 2 weeks, like I'm walking around outside, um, looking for Hazel, and I can hear screaming from my house. I can hear him screaming at Jen, like because they were in the garage and it was cracked open like this much. So I could hear him from the road. So I'm like rushing back home because Addison's home and we don't even like yell at our house. She didn't even notice she was playing. So I think that led to I was just like, so I was telling you something's wrong. He's screaming at her, like, this isn't right. And I just kept noticing that stuff. And for you, you just think I'm a little bit overreacting a little bit because I don't yell at all. Like, we don't ever raise our voices at each other. Um, just like, I don't know, his personality and his actions and I can tell. I don't know. I knew he was drinking. I could never find it. Found it hidden in the garage in a cabinet. And I actually took a picture of the bottle to see like how full it was. And I went back the next day and it was significantly less full. So I did tell you about it. I remember you had a conversation and you're like, we don't drink in my house. Like we don't even have alcohol here. He was like, oh, okay, like basically promised he was going to stop. And I think for a little bit, I think you thought he stopped and I couldn't find it anymore. But he just got better at hiding it, come to find out. Yeah, that was my
Yes.
perspective.
How did he get better at hiding it, hon?
Apparently there was a garden sprayer. It was like gray. It was like this big and had a long like spout on it. And it was filled with vodka and we found it after he got arrested. And I don't know what we thought it was. I guess I probably thought it was like cleaning stuff or whatever cuz he was like having everyone scrub the house every day. So like it was sitting right by the kitchen table. So I mean he just like probably poured it in his drink when I wasn't in the room. I don't know.
So just some pumps here, spray, spray, spray.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, no joke. No joke. But there was even a layer before the sprayer. So after that little confrontation and, he's like, "Okay, we can't drink anymore." We were cleaning a lot. And I think he learned somehow that you like to clean with vinegar instead of bleach. So he's like, we can't use bleach. We'll use vinegar. So we were buying vinegar like by the gallons all the time. So we would wash out the gallon jugs after we used all the vinegar and we would pour the vodka in the vinegar jug. So that's why you couldn't
Oh,
find it. You
wow.
were looking
I
right at
definitely
it.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, you were
Genius.
you were
Wow.
looking right at it, but it's clear
Genius,
just
you
like
said.
vinegar is, so you didn't know that it wasn't vinegar. So there was that. And then after that, he got sick of having to do the whole washing the vinegar thing out and transferring it. He got tired of that. So he bought a pump sprayer. It was just like what you would use on weeds or whatever, but bought a brand new pump sprayer and he filled that I don't remember how many bottles of vodka it took to fill it, but he would fill that up, and he did exactly what you thought, John. He had one of those metal insulated, like water cups, like water jugs, leak proof,
Yeah.
nice cups. And he would mix cranberry juice and Rockstar and then do exactly what you thought. Pump that thing up and he would spray it into there, into his drink. And he started out just doing it toward the evening, again, so he could sleep, but he never slept. This never worked. But that was his reasoning for doing it. And then it became throughout the day, and it just got like more and more until the point, like by the time we got to the end of the story, I mean, I don't know if he did not ever have alcohol in his system. And it just wasn't like super noticeable. I just didn't know the difference. I guess I didn't know the difference between, whether he was drunk or not drunk. Maybe he was never drunk. Maybe he was always drunk. I just don't know because he was
Mhm.
always the same. And by that point in time, it was just so bad that I didn't know the difference. But it went from just hiding it in the cabinet in a garage that like you didn't really go into very much, Amanda, and to the vinegar bottles to the pump sprayer. And yeah, I remember having to almost like prove to you guys after when we were cleaning the house out that this was not cleaner. It was vodka. I remember you just didn't believe me. You're like, no way. I'm like, no, really. Look.
Yeah, and then I think shortly. Remember, this time frame is so condensed. Like we're only talking about a 6 to 8 week kind of time frame. So all this stuff kind of just like comes together, and it was around that time frame. Like Amanda's starting to like hear things, and she's starting to tell me things. And of course, Amanda had the issues with the drinking that that she told me about. Then I had to go and tell them like, hey, we don't really don't drink in our house. Like I'm not anti-drinking. So like when I was in Louisville or if I'm out of the house and I'm at a restaurant, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll get a Captain Coke. Like I'm not against it, but like we just decided we weren't going to do it in the house with our daughter. Like it's just a decision we made as a married couple. That's it. We didn't find anything wrong with it. We just decided we're not going to keep it in our house and we're not going to do it in our house. And Amanda doesn't drink anyway. I'm the only one that occasionally like have a drink here and there when we're going out at like restaurants and stuff. Cause it's not important to me. It's not one of those things I have to have. So, but then shortly after that, that's, I guess, when Amanda started really becoming a problem for him, because I think either before the drinking incident or shortly thereafter, that's when the snowstorm of Ohio happened, and there was, we got 4 inches of snow dumped on the ground, and I'm not there. I'm in Louisville at this time. Snowstorm happens. I get a text message. I don't know if it was early in the morning or if it was super late at night. All his texts were early in the morning, either 2 a.m. or like 7 a.m. Like that was the time frame. It was never an afternoon text. It was always between the hours of 2 a.m. and early hours in the actual morning after sunrise. I remember getting this text about like how my wife was, he was saying, hey, it was something along the lines of, Steph, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you just kind of went through all these text messages for some of your things you were doing on TikTok. But he was saying, hey, I don't want to address this myself. I figured I would bring it to you. And he started going into this thing about how he shoveled my driveway after the snowstorm, cleaned off my wife's car, before she went off to work. And he knows that she gets up at this time and she gets up at this time and she goes to work at this time. And she gets up, gets ready, goes out to her car and leaves for work. And I get a text message shortly after that saying how ungrateful my wife is for not coming back in the house and properly thanking him for for shoveling the driveway for her. Now, mind you, before you get into the reaction of this, if I'm getting up for work and I walk outside, I remote start my car, whatever, and I walk outside and I see my car's clean and I'm leaving for work. So like I'm getting in my car, the driveway's shoveled. I'm thinking that was nice. I'm sure he did that. I'm not going back in the house and going, thank you for doing that. I'll wait till I get home and then I'll properly say, hey, you know what? And so I can properly give him a good praising. Like, so I could sit him down and properly give the person who did this a good praising. I would just leave for work, right? Despite that, I'm getting this like novel of texts about how she's ungrateful, which turned into like how she's manipulative and controlling. And he made it about her and about me and how I am not a spiritual leader and I don't have my wife in check or some verbiage along the line. Basically, she doesn't listen to me, or I don't have control of her. And that's a problem for God, is essentially what I got out of it. Now, I haven't read those text messages in a long, long, long time, but I know Steph just read pretty much all of them, and there were like a couple 100 pages worth. So Steph, do you recall those text messages? And then I'll pass it. Then I would say a follow-up to my wife if she recalls that whole shoveling the driveway incident and what the heck was going on in her head at the time. So let me start with Steph.
Yeah, I remember getting to those text messages and I was like, what is actually happening here? So first of all, you don't do a nice thing for someone in order to get a thank you, right? We all know that. But he was so upset and his ego took such a beating because Amanda did not say that she was grateful, that she didn't say thank you fast enough to him or at all. And he was just so upset by it. Like, how dare someone, like, I have done this grand thing for you and you are not even going to thank me? Like, you're supposed to be praising me right now, you know? And Amanda just wasn't having it. And he was absolutely losing his mind, saying that these women, they're all filled with emotions and they're hard to understand. But you get that, bro, right? Saying to you, John, he's always trying to be buddy with you on that. But yeah, all over Amanda not saying thank you for shoveling his driveway. His whole ego just completely just melted.
And
I was
like,
trying to pull up those texts, but I can't find them.
that's fine. We don't like, I think people get the gist of it, but you know, from another thing he would always constantly like text message me about is about like women and how we need to lead our women and how we need to make sure that we're doing it X, Y, and Z way, and how they need to submit to the husband's authority. And like, so this whole time, like I'm getting inundated with stuff like that, how, you know, she is manipulative. I don't have control of her. I'm not a spiritual leader. I don't know my Bible. I'm X, Y, and Z. Like all of this I'm getting, and not in a way that when you read it, like when I read it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I should have just told this guy to get the F out of my house. But then it was like, it didn't seem like an insult. Like he had a way of texting things that doesn't, if you just read it verbatim, it doesn't sound like an insult, but like there's hidden messaging behind it that makes it insulting.
Yeah.
And he was a genius at doing at that type of messaging when it comes to like when he would
compliment. Yeah, and he would compliment you in between things. Like he would be telling you a horrible thing and then he'd be like, "But I love you, bro," and stuff like you're the best. Like I love you more than anyone in this world, and I mean that. Like he would drop in all of these little positive reinforcements surrounded by the muck and mire. So it would be more easily for you to digest as you were reading it in your state of confusion, right? Because this doesn't make sense. But taking that in, like you're more likely to take in the bad then too. But like, yeah, those positive reinforcement, he would put that all over the place.
Yeah, and there's a couple things happening simultaneously during this time period, this like we'll call it 8-week time period. There's a lot of things going on. So he's not just like texting me and coming after me and like trying to fix me like he tried to fix my dad. Or like, you notice how like when he was in Pennsylvania, like that household was all wrong. My stepmother was running over my dad, and like that was something he felt he needed to fix or try to fix, and failed epically at it because he went about it all wrong. And because, for whatever reason, he just, I don't know what it is about a lot of women that, now that I'm looking back at this, like, he doesn't get along with women very well. At least mature, wise women that like he didn't get along with my stepmother. He didn't get along with Amanda. He just doesn't get along with that. And then there was a problem at my dad's house he had to fix. Now he found a problem at my house he was trying to fix that with my messaging to him. But there's a whole nother side of things that he was dealing with and kind of walking through. And we're still talking about Jenn and the kids, and all of the cleaning and all that wasn't to be nice. That was a control thing. And at the same time, he's texting me about my wife. He's also texting me about like how, the water heater was, making bubbly noises because there's too much calcium buildup, and that my landlord, he can like fix it for my landlord. And he wanted the number for my landlord to talk to the landlord about like, hey, have the landlord pay him to fix the water heater and all these things. And then he came to me one time and said, hey, Jenn's never had really, she's gone through a lot, and she hasn't had anything that she can really call hers. And so can I paint this door? Like, I remember him talking about painting the door. Jenn, do you remember the door being the painting of the door thing? We're not talking about the next part of the house. We're just talking about the door to y'all's room. Like that whole thing, because that was a thing between him and I about painting that door. Do you recall that?
Jenn?
Yeah. It was more than the door. It was the whole bedroom that we were allowed to, was kind of like our bedroom. And this actually happened in the good week between Christmas and New Year's, because you guys went to Wisconsin to visit Amanda's family for New Year's and then came home to like this, oh my goodness. And so I remember, he was saying that stuff to you, and he wanted to repaint the room because it was like a dark blue color or something like that. He was like, it's just kind of, dark and like, he posed this all as, Jenn's been through so much, and, everything that happened in Pennsylvania, and your dad, and, lost her job, and, everybody's just out to get her, and I just want to give something to her. And so, I don't know how he posed it to you, because I was not privy to that conversation, but he came back to me and was like, we got the go ahead, we could go ahead and paint, we could do whatever we want to this room. And I was like, are you sure? You talked to my brother about this. Like, he said we can paint the walls, paint the door. We could do all of this. Yeah. We could do it. We could do anything because, John wants to make sure that you have what you need too. I was like, okay. So what should have been a maybe half-day project at most? I mean, how long does it take to paint a 10 by 10 bedroom, a different color? How long does it take? I think I could do that inside of 2-3 hours if I was like being super careful, slap some paint on the wall, call it a day, I mean, it was like a day and a half. I mean, it should have just been a different paint color. It ended up being, he was complaining that, there was holes in the walls were out of plumb, there's like, the walls kind of like did this, and he's having to fix the walls now. We're having to put so much time and effort into fixing the walls, and then since we fixed so much of the wall, now we have to retexture the wall, and so we had to go buy texture. And then since we did all this work to the walls, well, we have to fix the ceiling now too and paint the ceiling. And I'm going, the whole time I'm like, oh my goodness, this was supposed to be a couple hour project. This is not. And then, we're having to paint the door. What color do you want the door? And I'm like, I don't know if you should paint the door. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't paint wood doors. They're wood. Don't paint the door. That was not even a thing that I wanted, FYI. So, and now mind you,
Yeah,
we're
and
on a
FYI,
sorry, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say we didn't know it was happening.
Yeah, oh yeah, and
I don't.
FYI, they didn't
Yeah.
even know. Yeah, he didn't actually tell you exactly what we were doing. I thought he did. He told me he did, but
I
you
I
didn't.
recall the phone because it was a phone call. It wasn't a
Mhm.
text message, and I had explained to him that if this were my house, no problem. But like our landlord was he was a great landlord. Don't get me wrong. He's a good guy, understanding guy. We were already there for 2+ years prior to this. Like we got along, everything was great. One of his things that he was real nitpicky about was, hey, like if you want to change the color or paint a wall, let me know first because basically they had to move into a bigger house because of more kids and they were thinking about like moving back into that house at some point in the future once all the kids were moved out and they sold the bigger house and it's just him and his wife come back in that little house. They still lived in where we lived in Ohio. So nice neighborhood. And so he was just like real picky about colors and hey, if you want to paint, just let me know. Let's agree on a color and you can go ahead and paint. But the key point I heard, don't paint without talking to Rob. Don't paint without talking to Rob. Don't do anything to this house without talking to Rob first. And I respected that for the whole time we were here. So I remember the conversation with Bill about, hey, this from my house, no problem. But the landlord's real nitpicky about paint and paint colors and all this other stuff. So like, I'm not sure this is the best idea. I don't know if I flat out said no. I don't know. I know I probably wouldn't. I don't think I would agreed to painting the room, but it's hard for me to recall.
I know he sold you something that was like a version of this is what we want to do, but not the full aspect. And I think at least what he told me was that the landlord was a little bit weird about it, but you had a good relationship with him and would be able to bring the landlord on board and it would not be a problem. And so he was convinced that it was not a problem. And I think that's why I kind of questioned had a second question, like, are you sure? Okay, as long as John said it's fine. And you know what? I don't know why I didn't just text you or call you and be like, hey, brother, just wanted to make sure, I understand, whatever. But, I just took it like, yeah, we're allowed to do this because he said we could. So he sent me to the store to get paint and stuff, and then he kept calling me, and I was supposed to just like hurry up and come back. And then he kept like texting me, get this, get this, get this. And I'm like, dude, I can't get back in your time frame if you keep adding to the list. So I finally get back and it's wall texture, it's spackle, it's all kinds of stuff to fix the walls and let's do the ceiling and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay. So we start painting, we start doing everything, fixing the walls, and he's got all of the kids involved in this. All the kids are doing this and they didn't have a choice. And I remember the oldest daughter who was still there, because this was the vacation week, like not agreeing to this and not being okay with having to work the whole vacation on this room. And she would laugh and like come on here and tell you exactly what he said, but he said something to her along the lines of like, you just need to, I don't know, I don't even remember, I can't even make something up right now because I don't remember what she told me he said to her, but she did not appreciate it. So but we also had to get this done before you guys got home. That was a big deal to get done because what he sold us was, because we had to take everything out of the room, I mean, we had to destroy the house basically, and we didn't want you guys coming home to that and this being a long drawn out process. So we want to hurry up because we want to be good guests. So we were hurrying up, but he just kept adding to the list. You know, he kept making the project bigger and bigger. And, you know, a day and a half later, now literally you guys are texting saying like, we'll be home in about an hour, and we still have probably 3 hours worth of work to do. And he's cracking the whip. And I remember too, he wasn't working. He wasn't doing any of the work. He was just telling us what to do. And his excuse for that was somebody has to think through the process, and somebody has to be on top of everything and be on the next step and be ahead of the game. And somebody has to be managing all of this. So I'm working. I'm working. This mental work that I'm doing is work. But he literally did not pick up a paintbrush. And my kids never painted before. They never did this work. They didn't know how to do it. I had to teach them on the fly. And then when they didn't get the strokes right, because there was wall texture in the paint, you know, you have to do it a certain way or else it's like clumpy, you know, and then you get some texture on one stroke and on another stroke, there's no texture. And so he kept, you know, judging our work and giving us grades and telling me that I have to manage the kids better. And I'm like, dude, they've never painted, much less with an additive that requires an additional level of like experience. Like I've never painted with texture. And you're just yelling at us that it's not good enough and it has to be perfect. And man, I was so mad at him during that whole process. And I guess I'll let you want to say something. So before I get to, you know, you guys coming home.
That all I know is I can confidently say I didn't give him the go ahead, because I remember coming home and just, I don't think we had words. We're like, what in my head, you know, in your proverbial head, you're like, what the is going on here? And I don't know when you did it or the look on your face. I don't even think you said anything, but the look on your face was like, you knew I didn't know. And I just saw you going, I'm so sorry. Like you didn't say anything. Your face just said like, I'm so sorry. And you and I didn't really talk all that much when y'all lived with us. Like you and I as brother and sister did not really have conversations at all. It was just him and I, and you weren't really talking to Amanda all that much either. Like you were just kind of like doing your thing. And, you know, as people listen to this and they start to see this pattern of control, because remember we said in episode 1, it typically doesn't start with the fist, it starts with control. I hope you guys are seeing in all of these examples and these stories that we're talking about of what we actually lived, the progression of control. And I know we jumped around the timeline a lot, but this was one of the first, like, at least in our house, like this was vacation week. Within the first week, we had left to go back to Wisconsin, come back to like, because the project was not done when we got back. That's how we immediately knew when we walked in the house that something happened. Like the project moved forward because it was not done. And we walked into like a mess of stuff because the project was not done. And from the point of I walked in to however long after that whole took, like, that's part of those things where the subconscious kind of buried those in the secondary vault. And I can't remember what was said or how we even got past that. I don't recall. I don't actually remember talking about it. I remember walking into our room, which was like full of stuff. And I was like, I'm going to bed. I think that is what happened. I don't think we talked about anything.
That's how I remember it. So he cracked the whip really hard and like was counting down minutes loudly to us when you guys were, you know, just got off the freeway, you know, okay guys, 10 minutes. Passing Walmart, okay guys, 5 minutes, you know, in the neighborhood, you guys, there's 2 minutes left, go, 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 go. And I mean, he's like a coach now, like a track coach or something, like, you know, let's go, we got a circle, redo it, do this, do that. And we're like, And I was so over it. I'm so done with this project, and I was so mad. And I think throughout this whole project, I kind of just know in the back of my head, even if John did say we could slap a different color of paint on the wall, he did not know we were doing all of this. And I just was like, there's no way that this was what John gave the green light for. So yes, we did not finish on time, and I think all of us were covered in paint head to toe, and there was our stuff everywhere. Um and you guys just came home and saw like the disaster, and he was right there saying like, don't worry, we're going to get it all put back away. Like it just took a little longer than expected. We got, and yes, you guys kind of just walked in, looked at the bedroom, and was just like, okay. And I remember giving you that look like, yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry, but like I can't say anything else. Like I cannot. 'Cause, yeah, we didn't talk because I couldn't talk to you guys. And if I felt like I was allowed to talk, then I didn't even know what to say the whole time I lived with you, because there was so many dynamics going off in my mind at the same time. I still had in my head, like, don't say anything bad about him and don't let anybody know what's really happening, because if this ever turns around, I don't want people to look at him and like hate him and think badly about him when he's not that guy anymore, when we're going through a rough spell. So I always kept it hidden. And I was already really good at putting a mask on, because I mean, I had to get really good at that from just normal life. But then especially going through Pennsylvania, all that experience, I mean, I just really got good at hiding everything I was feeling and thinking. And I know when you came in, that was literally all I could muster up. And you guys didn't say anything. And I remember Amanda just being like, I'm going to bed. I think you actually like verbally said that. I'm going to bed, good night. And that was the end of that. And we didn't talk about it. And it wasn't done. We did take everything out of Addison's room so she could go to bed. And we put everything back in our room. But like had to take it all back out, had to put it all back in. And for weeks then after that, things were just kind of piled. Like we never actually moved in. Things were just kind of piled up, and we lived like that for a while. And the part that wasn't done was the door. I think he finished the door like sometime that week. But that was the part of the project that wasn't done, minus the fact that the walls were still drying.
Yeah. And so for those of you listening that are like, why, the question might be asked is, why didn't I say anything? Why didn't I confront? Why didn't I, like, if this happened in my house, then, oh man, all hell would break loose there. Well, a couple things. Back then, my personality back then has adjusted and shifted over the years. You put it in perspective, like in my mind, I always had the kids in the back of my mind whenever I was thinking about the situation. Like if I confront him, or if I blow up on him, or if XYZ happens where, I say, okay, this isn't working. Well, anything that I chose to do would affect the kids, right? So it's like, if I told him to get out, I can't handle this anymore. I need you to just go and figure this out, because I can't have this. Well, that means the kids were going too, and you were going too. There was no kicking Bill out and just having you guys stay and him go. That in my mind, I'm thinking this. And even when I have conversations with Amanda about her concerns, and I'm just like, man, I think at one point I just told her, man, I'm playing a game right now. Like I'm literally playing a game, trying to appease him enough, because, and I don't know if I explained this to her back then, but trying to appease him enough and like make him feel like he's in control but I was emotionally and mentally just exhausted from just trying to also put up this front of, on one hand, maintaining a good relationship with my wife, whom I have to spend the rest of my life with, versus also trying to appease him by going, yeah, I'll handle that. I'll handle her. Like, use words like that in my text messages. And when I talk to him, when he complains about Amanda, me going, I will handle her, like, just like that, like in that, because that would appease him, because okay, I'm getting through to, he called me John Boy a lot. I'm getting through to John Boy a lot. He's all right. So I'm trying to appease multiple people without blowing up and kicking everybody out of the house. And then who knows what would happen. And I had the kids on my mind a lot. What's going to affect my nieces and nephews, because none of this is their fault. And my sister is not saying anything. So there must, like, either she's brainwashed or like she's going along with this. Like, she thinks this is okay. And because you weren't saying anything. And it's like, and I'm like, am I crazy? And then my wife's telling me, no, this is real. Like, this is real. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. And me going, you're crazy. There's nothing wrong. It's just, there's a lot of people in the house, because I don't know. I felt that I owed him a debt for taking me in. And I still looked up to him as more of a father figure because of the things that him and I kind of walked through when I lived in Wisconsin with you guys. So all of this was going through my brain. And then, like, walls are getting painted. And of course, there's like this owed grace and there's owed mercy. Like, I owe him grace and I owe him mercy. And I think he knew that I thought that, which is why he did a lot of this stuff. Cause like, I get away with it. Like, cause Jumbo owes me from what I did, all that stuff. And that the painting of the door was just like one scenario. There's the whole shoveling of the driveway. There's the alcohol incident, with him hiding, like, thinking he can do this and then smooth this over. It got to a point where I was like, we need out. Like, we needed to get out. And I remember this, and kicking you guys out wasn't really something we ever talked about, but I just remember thinking, I was sitting on my bed. Mind you, the constant novels are still coming via text message of how I am like all of this, how I'm horrible at this, and my spiritual journey is garbage, and my wife is just this manipulative little witch that blah, blah, blah. All of this is still coming my way constantly, every day. I'm working 70, 80-hour work weeks because I'm in the production entertainment business, and I'm down in Louisville. So I'm setting up shows and I'm getting all this stuff. But I remember I was home one weekend sitting on my bed, and real quick backstory, growing up, horrible at finances, horrible at them. My credit score before this time had never been above like a 520, which is horrible, but I've been working on it years, paying debt, all this stuff. So my credit score is like right there on the line of like, it could get approved, it may get denied. I was right there on the 620 mark. And I remember this. I'm like, Lord, please have mercy on my soul. I remember going on to USAA and filling out the pre-qualification app to buy a house. I'm like, if we could just buy a house. I had this whole plan. And I remember filling out this app in USAA. I remember hitting the submit button, thinking like, Lord have mercy. If this is a deny and I'm stuck like this, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember coming back as approved, like, you've been pre-approved for the amount that I put in there. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we're saved. Like, this whole relief came over my head. And this is where I was at. We were buying our first house because of the situation we were in. And I think we looked at 2 houses, 3 houses in the neighborhood. It was quick. But we didn't even go house shopping. Like, second house we looked at was like 2 blocks away. We're like, great price. We'll take it. I don't think we shopped, and we bought one of the first houses we saw, and ended up moving. We're getting ready, closing on the house, got a closing date. And like, the relationship between Bill and I it wasn't like we hated each other. It was still kind of like decent. So I'm like, hey bro, can you like help me look at this house and make sure? And he ate that crap up. He's like, oh yeah, I'll help my brother buy his first house. And I remember him like negotiating and talking with like the realtor and the inspector with the house about, finding all these things. And I remember him texting me like, I'm going to get you like $15,000 off your closing costs because of the skills that I brought to this and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And there are some other things in that scenario, but it's all the same story about him kind of injecting himself and trying to control everything. But the point is like, we had literally, the plan was to buy this house 2 blocks away. And then I was going to pretty much negotiate a lease handoff. Like I was going to hand off my rental agreement to you and Bill. And I remember saying, hey, I will cover a certain period of rent. I don't know if it was 3 months or 6 months, but basically I'm going to cover the rent for an extent until you guys get on your feet. And I had talked to Rob, our landlord, and like, here's what's going on. Here's what's happening. And this dude, I got to give props to. My landlord was like, I don't know, if I owned a house and I was renting a house and all of a sudden, 8 more people or 7 more people moved into, with the tenant. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd have that. Dude was great. Right. So, and then I throw this crazy idea at him, like, hey, we bought a house. We want to pay for these guys to just keep going with with the rent, I'll guarantee it and all that till they get on their feet. He had some reservations, he wanted to meet you guys and all that stuff. And we're getting into like starting of the story that it really starts getting nutty. But I just wanted to give context to like where I was at mentally and emotionally with this whole thing was just like, man, I was exhausted because I was getting hit from all kinds of different angles. And, it should have been a red flag that first week when things started, like the honeymoon period or the vacation period wasn't even over yet. And all of a sudden changes are being made. Like I should have just woke up then and I should have had a conversation with my sister. But at the same time, my sister didn't give me any like indication whatsoever that anything was wrong. So it's very hard for me to like, are you sure nothing's wrong? Like I was just like, she's not saying anything. She's not even sending up smoke signals to me. Like, I just remember thinking this. And I think Amanda was the one noticing that something was wrong, not just with Jim, but I think she just knew something was wrong. So I think from her standpoint, and Amanda, you could probably speak more for this. At what point during this whole time were you like, yeah, something is wrong? Was it when you heard screaming and yelling when you were looking for Hazel?
Probably. I felt weird before then, but I think being out there and I heard screaming, I was like, yeah, there's something going on. So I think at that point, after that, I tried to like take Jenn out for coffee or something and talk about it. But it was kind of weird. Like we didn't actually talk about anything. Everything seemed to be like fine with her. I couldn't read her, to be honest. Like in my mind, something was wrong, but I couldn't really talk to her about it. And I just had to keep going on with what was happening, and kind of see what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, do you guys remember when Hazel went missing? Like, was that in January still? Had to have still been in January because, the middle of February was all over.
Yeah, I just think we're kind of jumping all over. Like
We are.
the whole thing with the room and when we came home was like week 1
Mhm.
of everyone being there. And so even at that point, I think I think John didn't say anything about the room. And I was just like, I'm going to bed because 1, you're traveling all day. We were tired and I just didn't want to deal with it. But then I think at this point too, nothing bad had even happened. Like the text hadn't started.
Mhm.
Um, all of the, like, I didn't have a bad feeling quite yet. Like, I think like nothing had happened. So we're like, it's just a room. Like, we're not going to cause a fight over a room and we're just going to let it go.
Yeah, that sounds about accurate. Um, I feel like the family meeting was before you guys went out of town. So, like, you didn't appreciate that, but that was really the only thing, you couldn't have
Yeah.
chalked that up to a bad thing, that happened. So, the room was definitely the first thing, and then after that, it was just the whole, uh, but I think we were in, like, the honeymoon stage still, kinda like of the love the love bombing kinda at this point, he's sending novels of text messages. I don't know if it was to John yet, but he had been sending novels to me all along. I think I talked about that in the last episode in Pennsylvania. He was sending them to dad and our stepmother. Um, and then he started sending them to John. And some of this is really fuzzy and like where does it fit in the timeline? Some of these stories. It's um, I remember I remember crossing a line where that was when we lost Hazel and he was screaming at me. Uh, and you know what? I say that it's when we lost Hazel, but then I think, yeah, but when he started screaming at me was when we were cooking spaghetti and I don't think I burned something and that's how Hazel got out. And I feel like there were that was 2 different times, but, um, it had to have been all the same time period. But I remember, we were making spaghetti. I think he was making scratch-made sauce, and he was very proud of it, and he was cooking for everybody, and, like, you and Addison were gonna be there for dinner that night because you weren't always there for dinner, and that was one of the things that he hated, that you didn't respect, our cooking enough to be there for dinner. But this night you were going to be, and um, I took the pot of spaghetti, I drained it, and I didn't want it to get cold because we were ready to eat. So instead of spraying it with cold water, I sprayed it with hot water because I didn't want it to get cold. That's it. I just wanted to rinse it off with hot water instead of cold water. He, I mean, flew off the handle because I didn't use cold water, because cold water stops the cooking, and he didn't want the noodles to get mushy. And I'm like, "Dude, I've been cooking pasta for a long time. I know how to do this. I'm It's fine. I just didn't want them to get cold." I mean, and then that was, "Oh, you're disrespectful. You don't know how to do this. Like you haven't lived long enough to even know how to." I'm just thinking, "I cooked for you for 18 years before this. I'm not really sure where you're now I can't cook pasta." So he's screaming at me at the top of his lungs and like getting in my face, like really close. And I'm like, he's backing me into up against the counter. And I'm like having to, lean backwards to kind of get away from him because he's this close in my face screaming at me. And I remember just saying to him, like, this right now, you need to settle down because this is abusive. And that just made it worse. You've never seen abuse. You don't know what abusive is. This isn't abusive. And then he brings Jesus into the picture. And that man had to suffer abuse for you. And he got whipped and beat and all the things and spit on. And you're crying about the fact that I'm raising my voice at you. And I'm like, "You're doing a lot more than raise your voice at me. I mean, this is violently screaming at me over some pasta." And I mean, I saw a side of him that I've never seen before. And that was the next phase. And you were outside looking for Hazel. So I don't remember I think that it was just like maybe the next day or two after Hazel had gotten lost that you were out again looking for her. And that's when you texted me and was like, "Do you want to go to Starbucks with me after dinner?" Um, actually you texted me after dinner because you had come in from looking for Hazel, and I think you heard him screaming at me and you wanted to make sure Addison was okay. So you came in and he told me, he was like, you better not have a bad attitude and ruin this dinner. Like, they're finally here for dinner and you better not ruin it. So you better put whatever happy face you have to get put on. I don't care if you have to pretend, but you better change your attitude. You better do it right now. And you better have a good attitude. Because if you don't, if you give Amanda one iota of, if you look at her the wrong way and make her think that something's wrong, like, there's going to be hell to pay. And it's just like, oh my goodness. I mean, I'm like at dinner, I'm trying to hold back tears and keep a smile pasted on my face the whole time, like some weird thing. And I remember that's when he tried to force Addison to pray. And then, after that was how he got his ammunition against John about how he doesn't teach his daughter how to pray. And Aria is, 2 years younger than her and she can pray and she doesn't have it, whatever. And which wasn't true. But anyway, then, that's when Amanda, she wanted to take me out for coffee. I knew she wanted to find out if I was okay because she just heard him screaming from down the road. And he had been yelling at me. And, I got that text. So another dynamic that was going on, and John, you mentioned that there was a lot of things at the same time. Another dynamic that was going on that had started in Pennsylvania was he was on a mission from God to save our family. Not only correct wrong relationships and dynamics, but spiritually, he was convinced that everybody was going to hell and he needed to save everybody. And so he was, this whole time, starting in Pennsylvania, he was working on the spiritual aspect of everything, and he was working with everybody. So when he would talk to Dad, I'm working with your dad. I'm, as like a counselor would be working with a patient. And so this was his mentality then with you, about you and Amanda. And I remember she texted me and she wanted to go out, and at first he gave me like, there's no way you're going out with her because you're just gonna say, whatever bad things about me. And I was like, no, really, I can turn this around and I can really have a chance to sit down with her and get serious about her relationship with God. And that won him. That was good. That the anger and the conversation, it changed in that second. And he was like, good plan. Yeah, you can do this and you make sure you say the right things. I mean, he was still very like scripted, like make sure you say this and you bring up this and this and this. And I was like, pep talk, like, yeah, let's go team, high five, we're gonna save Amanda. And I go out to coffee with her and I'm like, that's my mission, to talk to you about your relationship with God and how much do you read the Bible and all this. And that's what we talked about. That's why you can't remember, or like how it went, or because we didn't talk about, not a single mention of what had just happened in the house was even said. And I think you just didn't know what to do with that. I mean, we didn't know each other. Like,
Yeah.
we were never like we never really had deep conversations, in the past, like once or twice, but this wasn't an ongoing thing to where you could just be like, Jen, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So, that was, yeah. And I remember, I look back now and I had several opportunities like that to raise the white flag and be like, guys, I'm dying here. I don't know what the heck's going on. Something really crazy is happening, and I didn't take it. I remember at least 3 different opportunities, one with you, Amanda, one with John, and one with Nehemiah, our oldest son. All 3, when you guys were like, hey, what's up? Are you okay? What's going on? And I just completely played it off. Like, nothing's wrong. Everything's good. And, we're just trying to figure out some spiritual dynamics and relationally. And, there's been a lot of stress and a lot of moving around and just everything is hard and we're trying to figure this out. And I mean, for the most part, I knew it was all wrong and I knew it was abuse and I knew this was terrible. But in my mind, I just had to keep playing along for a little while longer until he felt like the heat was off and we got through this hump. We got over this hump and then things could go back to normal. And he would, in the whole process, there would be good days. And so every good day, every second good day that came, I was like, okay, all that's in the past now. I can just close that door and we can move on and have normal life again.
But then another bump would come.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he lived on the bumps. Because the dinner thing, was that that wasn't the dinner where she showed up late.
I don't remember.
So there was a dinner
I
that y'all
honestly
had
don't
made.
know if that was the same.
No, because if you were out looking for Hazel, but you didn't get home from work at the proper time, and you forgot to text, or you didn't text them that you were late, or something.
I
like that
never
for
came
dinner.
home for dinner.
Yeah, there was a dinner because I heard the fifth. I read the novel on this one where there was a dinner they were cooking dinner. You usually get home around X, Y, and Z time from work. You didn't get home from work, and he held dinner off till like 7:30, and finally he just let everybody eat, and then you walked in the door late, and not whether you were late for work, I don't know. But then I heard about how disrespectful that was because you didn't have the respect to call or text anybody that you were going to be late getting home from work to your own house, something like that. Yeah, because I got the book on it.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I couldn't remember if there was a lot of dinner incidents, it seemed like, but I think it had to have been afterwards because
It was a different dinner, but
Yeah.
there was several because, it started out like everybody eating dinner together, but quickly that degraded. And I think it started with her, not coming home on time for dinner. And he started out like holding dinner off and then holding dinner off. And then he was like, well, we're not going to do this again anymore. Whenever she comes, she can eat. But that process took a little bit, like a week or two, for him to be like, well, whatever, she can eat whenever she gets home then.
Which was totally fine. Like, it's like there was never an agreement. It was like everybody's going to be home sitting on the dinner table at 7:00 every night. Like, we never had those discussions. We never had that agreement in the family meetings that we established all this hierarchical rule where, like, I'm the boss and then he's the boss and then you and Amanda are just kind of. Nehemiah probably had more authority over you two in his mind, right? Because he's a man, right? So we never talked about when we're going to get home from dinner, and we talk about this 6 years later, and it's like, what the was I thinking back then? And it was because of what I said earlier. It's like I was really scared of confrontation with him because of what could happen and what could happen with the kids, and none of this is their fault, and I don't really care what my sister's going through right now. I'm just really concerned about the kids because they're innocent, right? And so this is my mindset. And so I am just going with the flow. Some of this stuff I didn't even know was happening because, mind you, I'm gone for a week at a time here and there down in another state. And I'm getting some accounts from my wife. And, so I'm getting a little bit of what's going on, but I don't have the full picture of what's going on. And I'm also getting novels from Bill about how I'm a horrible human being and I'm burning in hell and my daughter's burning in hell and my wife deserves to burn in hell. And I'm just like, okay. And then he's getting on me about my spiritual belief. And, because we all grew up Baptist and kind of more traditional. There's a shift in my kind of doctrine of belief to be more of that Assemblies of God, charismatic, believing in the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And I really, even to this day, feel like, if I really have a peace that surpasses all understanding in my heart about something, like that's one of the key things to go, okay, this might be a good if I'm choosing a direction. Like if I don't have my gut and I'm not really at peace about this way, and I have a full peace and no real gut feeling, and Amanda's on board and some other things, like I'm going this way. But one of the key things is like that peace, that Holy Spirit peace that surpasses all understanding. That's like one of the key things that I look for in any big decision. He didn't buy that whatsoever. He's like, that's a bunch of bull honky poop. And I just remember I was so fed up with the text coming, the book long text about how I sucked at being a human being. He had just said something that triggered me, and it was out of nowhere. And I don't know if we were coming home from church or when this happened, but he's just like getting on to me about how my belief, my view of the Holy Spirit and all that is a bunch of bull caca. And finally I was just like, all right, that's it. Get the kids out of the house. You and me, we're going to have words when I get home. Get the kids out of the house. And there are some text exchanges like, no, the kids don't need to leave. But the kids left, and Jenn left, and then we showed up, and, he's like, as soon as I pop open the door, he's out in the driveway going, let's go, you and me right now. Like he wanted to fight me. I'm like, whatever. So we get in the house, and he's pointing his hand, like he's literally going, he points to my wife. He's like, you out. And I remember Amanda's like, no, this is my house. And then he like started going towards her aggressively. And I'm like, whoa. We'll go in the garage. And then we just screaming match in the garage that probably lasted 2.5 minutes before he gets in my face and like wants me to punch him in the face because, if I punch him in the face, I'm punching Jesus, and we're cussing and swearing. And finally he's just in my face so close. I'm like, ugh. And I just shoved him so hard across my garage. And he kind of like, jammed his back in my table saw. And I'm like thinking, all right, he's coming back. This is it. It's go time, brother. And he just stops screaming, falls to his knees, and starts crying, saying how he doesn't want to do this. God's telling him to do this. God's telling him to do all of this. I don't like doing this, John. I don't like it. And just weeping. And I'm like, what the just happened? I'm thinking like 5 seconds ago, I'm thinking I'm about like, him and I we're going to go at it. We're going to have a fist fight here. And it went from like 2 male testosterones at 120 down to like nothing, like him bawling on the floor crying. And I'm like, what is going on? And I just remember that whole thing. And we get up, you talk and all this stuff. And I'm trying to understand the mind of a crazy person. It's really hard to understand the mind of a crazy person, because what's the strategy? Like, what's the strategy in getting your target or your victim so worked up, and then just like, I don't understand it. And I think that was the key. That was the point. Like, I think that argument in the garage was like, I'm freaking done with this dude. And like everything in the past that he's ever done for me, everything that he's ever, all the things that y'all did in Wisconsin, like all of that was like, I paid my debt. I'm done. And, I just, as a story moving on in this whole thing about like, I think we've established a pattern of escalation, and that just kind of peaked that escalation. And like, I don't know from your perspective, Jenn, how that played out from your side, because you weren't even really there. I think he just told you guys to like go somewhere. But from my perspective, like, that was like one of the moments when everything kind of came full circle to me. And I just realized that, okay, whether Jenn is either hiding it or she's right along with this crazy, I am done. And I just wanted to do what I need to do to fake it until I make it, to get through closing on this house. I was happy to pay for a year's worth of rent, I just wanted to be done. Yet the story doesn't end there, because it gets yet another step towards, like, it gets to another level of crazy. Somehow we made it through that. Somehow I didn't kick him out of the house. He stayed. They all stayed. Somehow we worked through that whole argument in the garage, and we made it through that. But very shortly after that is when it all came to a head. So, like, do you remember the argument in the garage? I mean, you weren't there, but do you like, I've always wanted to ask you, like, did he just tell you guys to leave, or how did he like prep you and tell you to get the kids out? Like, what was the story he told to get y'all out of the house?
Yeah. So now keep in mind, this was all a big spiritual battle, right? And he was God's messenger this whole time, and God spoke to him, and he was just always like this little boy that was invited to sit at God's table. And he would sit at the way end. This was what he would say, and I'm like sitting way at the end of the table, just happy to be there. And God is kind of like, no, 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 you don't deserve to be at the end of the table. You come up and sit right next to me. And like, he's just using that. I don't know. There's a parable in the Bible about that. So he's kind of applying that to him this whole time. And so he is God's messenger, and God speaks through him, and him and God are tight. And they have, especially at night when we're all sleeping, because we were all less than him because we needed to sleep, and he was more spiritual, and spiritual people don't need to sleep. And when you're so close to God. So mind you, this was all something going on in my head too. We were at some restaurant, I don't know, Burger King I don't remember what's down the road from past Walmart there, but we were at like Burger King or something. And when the showdown happened on the phone, like when you guys were talking on the phone and you were like, get the kids out of the house, we need to talk. He I was right there. He set it up with Nehemiah. He's like, take the kids to Chick-fil-A because they had a play place. Or I think McDonald's had a play. I don't know. Get the kids out of the house. You take them, be the big brother, and you go get them out of the house. Uncle John and I need to have an adult conversation. So he left me there. He was like, this is between me and your brother. You women don't need to be a part of it. I'm going to make sure Amanda is out of the house too. This is just man talk. He was really big on men and women role and like men talk. And he was constantly teaching me how a man thinks. And this is how a man thinks. And this is how a man wants to be treated. And, he was always teaching me about how to treat a man. And so, yes.
A light bulb moment. I remember him like reading a bunch of books about women or something like that while he was in Pennsylvania or something. He was reading books about, he would tell me about this. He's reading, like, he thought he knew the mind of a woman based on some books that he just read about women and how they think. And so what you just said, mate, like how he was trying to teach you how men think, he had learned how women how women think from a couple books.
Yeah,
Now
I
looking back,
actually
I'm like,
completely forgot about
yeah.
those books, and I couldn't even tell you what they were called, or I don't remember him actively reading them either, but there was a book or two. And yes, his attitude was kind of like, I put in the work to figure out how you women think and what you need and everything. And so I'm educated now on women. And so now you have to catch up and educate yourself about men. You women all need to know how us men think. So he was constantly teaching me. I mean, everything. And like I said before, everything was a teaching moment for him. Everything was a lesson. So, so he tells me that this is men talk. You women need to stay out of it. And so he left me at Burger King or wherever we were. And I do remember he came back to get me after the whole showdown in the garage, and he told me what happened. And he said that, he had told Amanda to leave and she refused, and told you to tell Amanda to leave. And you were like, I'm not telling my wife to leave. This is her house. And so, he was kind of like, I wasn't responsible for whatever was going to happen, whether his wife was there or not. And I was just thinking, you sound like you were willing to hurt her. I don't know what was in his mind, but that's the way he was sounding. So he told me about the whole thing, how it happened with you and him. And he pretty much told the story the same way you did. I can't recall anything that he twisted or just outright lied about or made up. But after that, when he came back to get me, he was like, this is everything that happened. And we kind of just agreed that we would all have let's let the rest of the night happen, and everybody tomorrow, just let's give this some time to cool off. And then tomorrow evening after dinner, after we put the kids to bed, we'll all four sit down and talk and have just like a an open discussion about everything, whatever anybody wants to talk about. So I was like, okay, sounds like, you know, it was bad, but it had a good ending. Um, I remember we had that talk the next night, the four of us. And that was another time that I had opportunity to be like, yeah, something's not right, except for the fact that it was all four of us, not just like, he was going to be gone and I could actually take my mask off. So, I mean, I absolutely had to perform like
Yeah.
normal during that talk.
I remember being so mad at Amanda because she would not speak. I'm like, I think I tried to like get her like before that talk. I was like, you need to speak up, speak what's going on. Like, the only way we're gonna get by this if you do X, Y, and Z. And she didn't say like 3 words that whole night. No matter how much I pressured her, she was not speaking whatsoever. And I remember being really mad at her for that. Like, half of it was show, but the other half was like,
You wanted me to fake it till we made it out.
yeah, and you faked it like
And I was
garbage.
not.
That's what I was mad
I was
about.
not. I said no. I wasn't gonna do it. I didn't care how mad he got. That's like, I didn't report in if I was gonna be late for dinner. I didn't thank him for the snow. Like anyone that would shovel off my car and shovel my driveway, I wouldn't wait till after work to say thank you. But I literally did not want to talk to this man ever. I was done.
Yeah, by the time the snow happened, she was already like, I am not talking to him and I don't care what he does for me.
Yeah.
Because he roped me into that whole emotional deal. Like, can you believe Amanda didn't even say thank you? I thought, like, I know I don't know. I guess she doesn't want to talk to me, but I mean, you'd think that she would at least notice that I did this very kind thing for her and at least say thank you. And I was just kind of like, yeah, that seems kind of out of character, kind of surprised
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that she didn't say thank you. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, but you have created this situation in which she hates you. So why would she say anything to you? She probably knows this is a loaded gift, like you're giving her a gift that's loaded with C4 and she's just waiting for it to blow up,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's, mind you, that all of these different events are kind of leading to getting back to like, we bought a house and we were in the process of moving our stuff out of the house. And the plan was to pay y'all's rent for a certain amount of time. I worked it out with Rob. Like, he was in agreement of that, but he wanted to meet you guys first. And I think I was in Louisville when kind of some of these text messages were going down. I texted him like, hey, Rob's on board. He wants to meet you guys. Which day works better? Saturday, Sunday. Amanda, I think she at the point, once we closed on the house, I think she was pretty much moved the essentials to the new house and was just staying there because she wasn't around. I don't think she was at the old house when some of this stuff was going down.
Yeah, we packed as we moved and I didn't go back.
Yeah.
I stayed in the new one.
Yeah. So we had closed on the new house and her and Addison were gone like so fast. Right. So here I'm like, okay, we're now having to balance like all of this. I'm in Louisville still. And I remember sending him a text going, hey, the landlord wants to meet you guys. And he responded like, well, why does he want to meet us? Like, I think he wants to get to know you and your family and all that other stuff. Which day works better, Saturday, Sunday, like what day works for you guys to meet? And I'll meet you over there and we can all talk. And he's like, well, why do you need to be there? I'm like, well, because I'm still responsible for that place. So I think he wants to just talk to everybody and just make sure he's at ease with the whole thing. No big deal. Okay. And he agreed and said, like, I think he said Saturday. I think he said Sunday would be better, whatever. But I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm thinking, I think this was, I probably get my days wrong. This might've been a Thursday. This might've been a Friday when these text messages happened. But I do remember later that day, maybe it was Friday morning at 2 a.m. or maybe it was Saturday morning at 2 a.m. one of those times, I get this weird text like, you know, you will respect our wishes for what we'd done for Amanda's perfect, 6 p.m. house cleaning roll. He just made something up. He's like, you will not, basically essentially saying, do not show up to the house until this time, and you will respect my request because we have respected your wife's perfect 6 p.m. house clean roll or something like that. And it was a really weird one. It kind of came out of left field. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, I wasn't planning on coming there early anyway. Oh, no, I did. No, I said I was planning on coming there early because I was going to get some stuff out of the garage to take to the new house. That's what it was. And he put the kibosh on that. He's like, do not show up before this time on this date. I'm like, okay, whatever. I won't show up there. And so I didn't show up, but I now know why he asked me not to show up. Now, mind you, we're going to about to get in this because I'm about to ask Jen to tell her version of the story. Now, mind you, I'm in Louisville. We just bought a house, just closed. House that they're in is a rental. Still renting it from Rob. The goal was to meet with Rob. Rob meets Bill, Jen, all the kids, and he gets on board with this whole, like, me covering the rent for 3 months, 6 months, whatever the agreement was, while they get back up on their feet. He's cool. Everybody wins. We win because we're out of that craziness. Bill and Jen win because they now can just live in their own craziness. Because remember, at this point, I still think that Jen's part of the crazy. Because she did a very good job at hiding it. And to this day, I'm still mad at her for it. But, we'll deal with that. But that was my thinking from that time. And then I get this crazy text like, hey, don't show up to the house until this date, which obviously sparked my curiosity. Well, why the heck doesn't he want me to show up? I don't know. At this point, I don't care. I just hope this meeting goes well with Rob and his wife. Like, I just praying that this meeting goes well so I can just boom. So that text happened. The next time I heard anything from him, my sister, or any of that side of the family was a phone call from my nephew. But we'll get to that. So why was I not allowed to show up to my own rent place that I was renting? Like, I was forbidden from showing up. Why?
Well, to answer your question immediately, and then I'll have to go back a little bit, it was because we were doing some major work on the house, and he wanted it to be a surprise, and he didn't want you to come and ruin it. And he definitely didn't want another showdown in the garage. And he definitely didn't want it to be like another, room painting episode where, it was just quietly brushed off to the side. He wanted everybody to be impressed. He wanted you to be impressed. He wanted Amanda to be like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong about him. Look how great he is. And he wanted Rob to be impressed. He wanted everybody to just be impressed with the work and the love and the care that we put into this house. So that was why you could, and I mean, just like the room painting episode, he kept adding to the list. And at first it started out with, we're supposed to meet the landlord. And I do think that all this happened on a Thursday or maybe it was a Friday, because the landlord was supposed to come over. The meeting was supposed to happen at 6:00 that Sunday. And we only had 2 days to get the house ready. And mind you, the house was kind of a mess to begin with because we had been building bunk beds for the boys. There was some stuff happening, like construction-like projects happening in the house. And it was a job to keep it clean. We always had to clean up. Anything that we were doing, we had to clean up, and we had to be done by 6:00 because, Amanda had to come home to a clean house, according to him, So, but we were doing a lot of stuff, and there was tools, out and things like that. It was just, I was already like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a job to clean up this house and to make it just as clean as we can to be impressive, to have the landlords let us stay here. And then he added on to it, not only are we going to clean, but we're actually we're going to fix a screen door. We're going to replace this. I don't even know. We're going to paint 2 other rooms, and because, all of the colors in the house were kind of like deep, dark colors. And he was like, we're just going to make the whole vibe of the house light and uplifting. And so we got to get rid of all these dark colors. So, and this is our house now, our name's going to be on it. So, we just want to leave a really good impression with the landlord. So we want to make sure that he understands that we're going to take really good care of his house. And the way we're going to prove that to him is by doing all this stuff, to impress him. Like, oh my gosh, you love my house so much. I want you to stay. So it started out as we're painting 2 bedrooms and deep cleaning the whole house. It wasn't just slapping paint on the wall. It was sanding the walls, stripping the walls, filling in every little hole, sanding any little, divot or anything, fixing the ceiling, making everything plumb, painting it to perfection, and putting wall texture on. We had to add wall texture. I remember halfway through the first night, he was like, "Oh, what do you think about this bathroom? What could we do with that?" And I was like, "Don't even start. Don't even start. You are not adding a single another thing to this list. We're not even going to get done as it is. I don't know how we're physically going to get done. So we're not doing the bathroom." And I mean, I had a little hell to pay for that because I didn't have vision, and I didn't have I couldn't get on board with anything, and I had to fight him on everything. And, I was struggling with a bad attitude this whole time. So whatever. So I think all that that text exchange happened on a Friday, and then we got right to it. Saturday I must have performed pretty well because I didn't get yelled at, but we all stayed up all night. And the kids were up as long as they possibly could be. I think Judah made it till like 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and he was only like 8, 10,
What time did you
10,
guys
9.
what time did you guys start?
I don't remember, but I think it was like after dinner that evening, I think. I mean, because, we had to have dinner, we had to have supplies, we had to get all that stuff. So, I mean, by the time we actually got working, I think it was in the evening, I think, on that Friday. So we worked all that night, and I think I finally got to go to sleep at like maybe 6 a.m. I slept for 3 hours, got up, and just kept going. We just kept going. And day 2, I did not perform well, and I was making mistakes here and there. And I mean, the mistakes were, he would tell me to go tape a room that he just sprayed with like primer, and that wasn't even dry yet. And I had to go put tape on it. And I was just like, it's not dry. Well, we don't have time. Just go do it right, and it's going to be fine. Whatever. Okay. So I put tape on, and 30 minutes later, he's spraying with the texture, and the tape is falling off. I'm like, no kidding, because you told me to put it on wet walls. And that was all my fault. I was making all these stupid mistakes because my head wasn't in the game and because I was just dumb. And I was having a bad attitude. And your attitude was great yesterday, and I felt like you were on my team. And now you're just a piece of crap, and you're not doing anything right. And you could care less about this whole project. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. The kids are exhausted. You told me to put that on when you did. I told you it was like, this isn't my fault, and he's just going after me. So, it kept getting worse. And I remember earlier that day, I was texting Steph, and it was a big deal not to answer his text messages. So I never wanted to be caught without my phone volume up loud so that I definitely heard the text message. And if I wasn't like right on it, if he didn't see those little like conversation bubbles starting as soon as he hit send, I was in trouble and I was having a bad, and everything I did wrong was not only a bad attitude, not only a spiritual problem, but it was disrespect. Everything was disrespect. So if I didn't text him back immediately, it was disrespect. If I wiped something incorrectly, it was disrespect. If I, didn't rinse the pasta correctly, it was disrespect. I remember walking through Walmart and being like, I just feel like God is stripping everything, including like my womanhood, away from me. And he just rode with that one, of course, yes. And, he's giving you a loving husband, though, to reteach you how to be the right kind of woman. And I mean, this is a little bit of a bunny trail. And I know you want to jump in there, John. You're like antsy, but the little bit of bunny trail, just side story here. Like maybe 2 weeks before this time, he had bought me this steam thing. I'd never seen one of these contraptions in my life. It wasn't like a steamer like you would think, like the wand. It was like this contraption that you hang clothes in and you shut it, and it like does all this. It's almost like dry cleaning, but it's a
I
steam
remember
clean
that.
thing. And he bought this for me because, he found it on Facebook Marketplace when he was up all night one time, and he just showed this to me. I was like, wouldn't this be awesome? And so we go and we get this thing, and he's so proud of himself because he bought this for me. And I- I'm like, we don't have the money for this thing. Like, I don't really care about this thing. I don't want to get this thing, but I couldn't express that. So, we get this thing. He's so proud of himself and he wants me to play with it immediately and be excited about it. And I'm figuring out how it works. It comes with these like this like cleaner pod thing that you put into it. And I'm like, these are probably expensive to buy all the time. Like, I could probably make this solution with just some household, things. I was good at that in the past. And he he said something to me, and this is me trying to be involved with this gift and trying my best to be excited about it. And he was like, "Yeah, you could make your own solution with your husband's permission and direction and guidance." And I was like, what do you mean by that? And I got in big trouble for this. I was just like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, what? You just have to get your husband's permission. You've got to ask me permission for everything. That's how it works. And I was just like, do you remember all the things that I used to make by hand in Wisconsin? Do you remember how I used to make dishwasher cleaner and laundry detergent and all these things that like I taught myself how to do? I made this stuff to save us some money and to kind of be a little bit more natural. Do you forget that? And like, you didn't teach me how to do that. And oh my goodness, did I have hell to pay for that? I heard I think this was when he started on me about women in general and how, you women, I have had nothing but bad from all the women in my life. And he's just going down the list now. You and Amanda and your stepmother and my mother and my sister and your sister and he was just listing off every woman he possibly knew. And the realtor of your house, he was dealing with her at the time, and she was a sassy, moody B word. And he's like, all the women in my life are just these evil people to me, and I don't understand what is with your kind. He was always talking about our kind, and I'm like, are we different than like a human being, like a kind? Are we different than a mankind? Is that what? So, yeah, women, his big thing was women, they just manipulate men. And that you guys use your emotions, which you don't even know what you want. You don't even actually know what you want. You just are driven by your emotions. And you use your cute words and your cute little bodies to seduce men and to manipulate us into, getting us off track with our relationship with God. And, you guys are just selfish little beings that only operate off of your feelings, and you just want what you want when you want it, and you don't care who gets hurt in the process. And I'm just like, what just happened? I'm literally, we were just talking about cleaners. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy, but that was his opinion of women. And then that opinion developed, and it got worse. Sorry, another bunny notes trail story about that. There's a there's a story in the book of Judges, chapter 19, that I had read in the past, and at some point I brought this story up because it fit into whatever conversation we were having. And I was like, I think I was almost maybe testing the waters to test out this disdain for women and how far he would actually go with that. And I brought up this story, and you can read it for yourself in Judges chapter 19. Mind you, the time period in history, in Israel's history, where the book of Judges takes place is a really bad time period. They were away from God, constantly like flirting with the other religions of the pagan countries around them, and those gods who, wanted all this sex. There was always like temple prostitutes and sex galore, and sacrifices of even children to these gods. So this were evil, wicked cultures. And so this is the time period, and Israel is flirting with this, and kept going astray from God. This man, the story goes that this man had a concubine. We won't get into what concubines are, but basically a wife, sort of. And she got mad at him for something and went back to her dad's house. And after a while, he missed her, so he went to get her. And he talked nicely to her and her dad, and he kind of just smoothed everything over and convinced her to come back home with them. Well, on the way back home, they decided, it was him and a servant and her. They decided, well, it's getting late. It's not safe to be on the road at night. We need to turn into this town and just like stay somewhere, like it's somewhere to sleep. So they do that. And this happens to be a wicked town. And some old guy takes them in. And in the middle of the night, a group of guys come pounding on his door and is like, send out the man who is the guest in your home. Like, we want to have sex with him. Kind of like the story of Lot and the angels. And the guy is like, no, don't do this. This guy is a guest in my house. Here's my virgin daughter and his concubine. You guys can take them. Here's my virgin daughter and this guy's concubine. Y'all can take them and do whatever you want to them, but don't hurt this man. And they didn't go for that. They wanted the guy. And so they pushed this guy's concubine out. They just shove her out. And this, as the story goes, they gang rape her all night long. And the Bible records this. They rape her all night long. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? Maybe we need to edit that to say like R word or something. But, and at daybreak, she crawls back and just gets her hands like over the threshold of the door and collapses. And he opens the door, her husband opens the door and was like, get up, we're leaving. And there was no response. She had just died on the threshold there. And the story gets even more messed up, but the point of it was I brought that story to him and was like, can you believe this? Can you believe, like, how does God not say anything about this? Because in the book of Judges, there wasn't a whole lot of God saying this was wrong. And it's almost like God's, in my mind, at that point in time, I was like, God's silence is kind of condoning this. And and what I kind of expected was for him to say, no, that was a terrible time in Israel, and God didn't condone that, but this is where they were at, He didn't say that at all. In fact, what he said was he kind of got a little bit mad at me for taking offense to this. And I even brought up the story about Lot with the angels. And he was like, you women, You just need to understand that, men are just of high value in God's eyes. And, these guys, they wanted to sodomize this man. And in the case with Lot and the angels, those were angels, Jen, angels. And the men wanted to abuse them. Angels, Jen. A man, Jen. I was like, yeah, which made it horrible, right? And you women need to get it through your thick flippin' skulls that it is better that a woman sacrifices her P word to protect a man's dignity than to see a man, have to whatever, get abused, lose his dignity, whatever. I just was dumbfounded. I didn't even know what to say. I had no words at that time. And so, back to the steam cleaner thing, I'm just like, he's serious. He hates us women. And he went through every woman in the Bible about how evil they were with Eve and, Jezebel and just all these women in the Bible that he, couldn't possibly respect because they were just evil. And I'm just like, I am in such trouble. I am in big trouble here. I'm in big trouble. And I think it was about that time that I just started desperately praying. Lord, I don't know what's going on here. I can't make heads or tails of this. I don't know if I'm in a right relationship with you. I don't know how you think of me. I don't know what you think of my actions and my attitudes and my thoughts. I just know that I can't figure out what the right thing to do is. I can't figure out what the right thing to think is. I can't figure out what the right thing to say is. And all I know is I am in this deep, dark dungeon right now inside of myself, and I can't let anybody know what's going on. If you don't do something, I will die here. And that wasn't me being suicidal. It was just that I was so in such a dungeon inside of myself, and I couldn't let anybody see it. And I was just going to resign myself to my fate. And that's how it was going to be until I actually died. And I was just going to be a slave in my own family, in my own home. And so by the time we got to the remodeling of the house for the landlord, I mean, it was just like, what do you want me to do? Whatever. I'm literally going to do whatever you want. And there were times that I could have told you. I remember one time you were home for the weekend and he told you, Jen, I don't know what you guys were talking about, but he was basically like, she'll tell you, go talk to your sister. I won't even be in the room so that, she can feel safe to tell you whatever. If she's wearing a mask or if she's hiding something, you can get it out of her. She'll tell you the truth and I won't even be in the room. And he went into the garage and shut the door. And I remember you sat down with me and was like, okay, what's going on? And I don't remember what I told you, but I was deathly afraid to take off this mask and tell you the truth. So I didn't. And I kept playing along. There was another time with Nehemiah where Bill sent us to the store. We had to be out for quite a while because we had several errands to do. So I think we were gone for a good 4 hours. And he brought up Dad yells at you a lot. And Dad says a lot of things that I just don't agree with. And I just can't wrap my mind around how this is okay. And why are you okay with this? And, I spun it for him too. How women these days just aren't respectful to men. And we live in a culture and you guys are growing up. And so you don't have a good reference point to what a good wife is. And I'm trying, but I'm really struggling. And Dad's just trying to refine me and make, and I just completely stood up for him in the back of my mind, knowing that this was abuse. This was not cool what was going on. So, and there's lots of other little stories that I could tell during this. And this was 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And I have a lot of stories that I could share about all this. And I'm sure more and more and more will come out as we continue on with different guests and things like that, stories. And we'll all have these stories. But to bring it back to the weekend projects where we had to impress the landlord, So the day 1 I did well, day 2 I was a piece of crap. And when you guys bought the house and you guys moved out, that was also around the same time that I was like, I'm done. My only glimmer of hope was when you came home on the weekends, John. That was my only glimmer of hope. I was just praying that you would be able to confront him in a way that he would honor and respect, and something would change. But every single time he spun it and he flipped it, and there was either a big fight or, we convinced you that everything was fine. So when you guys moved out, I was just like, man, I was so desperate. I was just done. And I knew I was going to die in that state. And this wasn't going to get any better. So Saturday night comes, and all of Saturday I had been making mistakes and messing up. And he was, mad at me the whole time. And so the younger kids kind of fell asleep, and Josiah, our third child, he was very sick. He had like strep throat. He was running fevers. I mean, he was sick. So he nodded off early, and Judah stayed up as long as he could to help. And then he fell asleep. Everybody was asleep except Nehemiah was right by my side helping. And I remember I had been texting with Steph earlier that day, and I don't remember if I had said anything that would have been compromising. But I was afraid of the things whatever I was telling Steph, I was afraid of him seeing. So I didn't want him to hear. So I turned my phone on silent so that he wouldn't hear that I was texting anybody. I think it was just that. I don't think I was even saying anything compromising. It was just the fact that I was texting somebody else without his knowledge or approval. So I forgot that I turned off my volume. And he texted me when Nehemiah and I were in another room. I think this was when we were taping. So he texted me something, and he wanted me to come read something that he had texted you or our dad. And I had to look at it, and I had to support him and agree. And so I didn't respond to it because I didn't hear the text come through. Well, he calls me into the kitchen, and he's like, "Did you get my text?" And I'm looking at my phone. I was like, shoot, I didn't hear my phone go off. Like, my volume was down, and I just didn't hear it because we were playing music, and there was a compressor running for the spray texture that we were doing. So I'm sorry, I didn't hear it, and I'm quick reading it. And while I'm quick reading it, he's getting mad. You disrespectful little, and I can't believe that you would even why do you think it was okay for you to have your volume down? I need to be able to communicate with you, and you need to answer me back. This is so disrespectful. I can't believe. And he just kept going on, and I'm going, look, but it's fine. I'm reading it. I'm right here. It was literally 1 minute ago that you sent it. And he's just flying off the handle. So somehow he gets me in the garage. I don't even remember how he got from the bedroom to the garage, but somehow he gets me to the garage. And, he's screaming at me in my face, and I'm backing up. Well, I hit the garage door and I can't go any farther. So he's right in my face, and he's spitting in my face, and he's just letting me have it. And he's telling me that, the kids are better off without me. They don't need me. They don't need a mother like me. He's going to send me away. He was constantly threatening to send me away. He was going to send me back to PA, and I could be under the headship of my lazy dad that didn't want to, whatever. And you don't want to, I'll send you back there, and you can remember what it's like to have a real man lead you. And I was just like, most of me was like, please send me back. Please send me back. But I didn't want to leave the kids. I wasn't going to leave my kids in that situation. So I'm like, I'm not going for that. So, he's threatening me. Well, I can see out of the corner of my eye, Nehemiah pacing in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, he kind of beelines it into the garage, and he puts his hand on his dad's shoulder, not in any kind of threatening way, but just to like turn him away from me to get his focus on him. Like, Dad, let's talk. We need to have a talk. And he went off on Nehemiah. He threw him up against the garage wall. He had him, I mean, he had me pinned to the garage by my chin at this point. He had been choking me before. Like, the physical stuff kind of had happened. And wow, that brings up a lot of other memories, John. Hatchet, 2x4. But he had Nehemiah up by his throat against the wall and with his fist like this. Like, he was cocked and ready to start beating. I thought he was going to beat Nehemiah up because Nehemiah had turned 18 when we moved in with you guys. And so he elevated all of the boys above me because I was a woman and they were males, so they were automatically above me. But because they were still children, we were kind of on an equal plane, except that they had an eventual higher rank than me. But Nehemiah, on the other hand, now he had just turned 18, so now he's a man. So Nehemiah, he thought differently of Nehemiah. And I, backing up 3 weeks when I prayed, like, Lord, you got to get me out of this or else I'm just going to die. I specifically said, listen, God, nobody sees me. Nobody sees what's going on. He's got everybody fooled, including all of the kids. He doesn't respect anybody. So I don't even think if John notices that he would even care. Like, nothing's going to change if John confronts him. So can you just show Nehemiah? Can you show Nehemiah what's happening? Because, he kind of, he looks at Nehemiah like another man. And right now he respects Nehemiah because Nehemiah hasn't offended him in any way. So can you just show Nehemiah what's going on? And I had no idea how that was going to happen because I was convinced that Nehemiah and none of the kids saw what was happening. So Nehemiah, so back to the garage. So yes, so he's getting ready to beat him now like a man. And I'm freaking out and I'm holding his arm and I'm like, don't do this. Like, he doesn't understand. He doesn't know what's going on with us. He just doesn't understand. You can't hold this against him. And so Nehemiah gets really, really, really smart in that moment. And he ponies up and he plays the part and he goes right back into the role playing. Like, I know exactly what I need to do to get my dad to back off. And he said all the right things. He agreed with him, your mom is having a bad attitude. And he's like, yeah, I know Mom's struggling. I was just trying to help the situation like you taught me. And I just wanted to be a man and like come by your side and like, help out. And so Nehemiah talked him off of him and took him into the kitchen then to have like a pep talk. You're like, okay, I know this just happened. I got kind of crazy, but your mom, this and that and the other thing. And I have to get real tough with her. And it would be great if actually you backed me up on this. And, it would help if you went and talked some sense into your mother. So maybe you can get through to her because I sure can't. So he sends Nehemiah back in the garage to talk to me. He looks me square in the eye and he is like, you better listen to your son. He's going to talk some sense to you. And so he shuts the door, closes the door from the garage to the kitchen, closes it. And so Nehemiah looks at me and he was like, Mom, I have my keys in my car, or my keys in my pocket to the car. We can pop the garage door open and we are going to peace out. We are going to get in my car and we're driving straight to a police station. I was like, heck no, we're not doing that. He's like, Mom, we got to go to the police. This is abuse. I've been researching abuse and relationships for the past 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been seeing all this stuff that Dad's been doing to you and the way he's talking to you. And I've been talking to Uncle John, and I've been trying to, but I can't really explain to Uncle John what's going on. And Uncle John is not really sure. He's like, but I've been looking this stuff up online. And I'm after tonight, I'm convinced we need to go to the police. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, no, we cannot go to the police. Because in my mind, when someone goes to the police for domestic violence, what happens is they hear your side of the story and then they go get the other side of the story. And when they get when the police officer comes to the house, he's going to tell them his side of the story. And of course, he's going to look awesome. And I'm going to look like I'm hurt and confused and just stressed out because of all the stress happening in the family. And her parents did all this stuff to her, and she's just really struggling right now. So he's going to make it look like I overreacted. And they're going to buy it because he's very charming and good with his words. And he had everybody else convinced. So I thought for sure they would leave feeling like everything is fine. He would close the door, and then I was probably going to get beat with a 2x4, a baseball bat, or something. But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have limbs broken. There's going to be blood. I might end up in the hospital. I was sure I was going to get beat. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, we're not going to the police. Nehemiah, he's talking back and forth. He's trying to convince me. He's trying to say, like, we'll come back for all the kids. I'm like, I'm not, even if I did want to go to the police, I'm not leaving the kids in the house with him alone, especially if I do this and then he flies off the handle. I can't risk him hurting any of the kids. And he's just like, we'll come back for that. Like, he's trying every way to get me to go out that garage door with him. And all of a sudden, the kitchen to garage door opens, and it's him. It's him. So he comes back in the garage, and he's like, Nehemiah, did you have a talk with your mom? Yeah. He looks me square in the eye, and he says to me, you better listen to your son and do what he says, because he just spoke the words of God to you. And the light bulb came on for me, and it all came together and it all clicked. And I'm like, oh yeah, I just begged God to show Nehemiah, and I begged him to get me out of the situation. And I begged him to rescue me. And I literally specifically asked him to do it through Nehemiah. And he just did it. Oh, yeah. And I looked back at him square in his eyes, and I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I am going to listen to my son. I'm going to listen to everything he said. So I guess if you want to interject, now would be the time, because the story just keeps going.
Well, I mean, this is the part of the story that gets, it gets dark. It gets dark. And yeah, there are some things throughout that whole time. Like, there are some things you said about his view on women that I knew, but then just hearing you say them verbally, like, and then watching Steph's face, like, that was, yeah. So I guess I never really heard that part where I knew what he thought of women. Like, I knew that he thinks that they are tools given to men by God to, play their servantly submissive, go make me a sandwich role. And that's all they're good for. And that, like, his twisted view of women. So I get that, but I didn't realize that it was that bad, I guess, until, like, you even were just explaining it now. Like, I understand traditional, there's guys out there and relationships out there that are more traditional, right? The wives wear dresses all the time. The wives make the food and all that stuff all the time. They take care of the house. They're the homemaker. And that's the relationship. And both parties are completely happy. It's a more traditional relationship, right? That doesn't make that style of relationship wrong in any way. And it doesn't even say that that relationship is an abusive relationship. That's just a different style of how two people, a husband and a wife, like, operate together. And that's still, there's those relationships out there today that are happily married. I can think of a couple, but one in particular off the top of my head, that family lives more traditional, wives, children, like the girls wear dresses everywhere. They're, they just, and that's the way they are. And everybody's happy. But he takes it, like, to the nth degree. And mind you, I think people have to also understand that this whole time that this is all going on, not all of it was in a sober state either, because
Right.
that was constant going on. Now hearing this, it kind of makes me mad because I'm like, maybe I should have went to the house first and then called the police when I was in my driveway to come and then go in there. That way, you know, I could have had my pound of flesh and then they would have shown up and then, you know, things would have progressed there. But I didn't find out about it until a phone call happened. But before we get to the phone call, like, you know, you kind of went through this whole 20-minute discussion of just this, what happened there. And like, Steph, you had some reactions, you had some faces, even Amanda to a point had some faces. Like, you two hearing this told again, trying to keep your womanly emotions out of it. You know, what goes through your brain without getting all emotional because you women are so emotional? Like, can you give me some logic to like what you're thinking right now? I'm going to get hit when I go upstairs.
Yes, please hit him for me at least 3 times. That would be great. Yeah, listening to all that back again, it just transports me back in time and back to those emotions, and I'm such a visual person as it is, so I literally put myself in that garage, just standing there, unable to do anything, watching it happen and watching him hurt my sister and say those words to her. And it sets my whole body on fire. Like, I'm smiling because I'm so angry right now. It is absolutely never okay to talk like that to anyone. Women are not less than men in any way, shape, or form. Um, so it's really difficult to go back and picture that happening. Um, yeah, I just find myself getting my blood boiling like all over again, and then my hatred slash strongly dislike ism for men increases a little bit more. But don't worry, I'm working on it in therapy, guys. But yeah, every time I hear these stories, I just despise men more and more. But I know that's a thing I got to work on. So yeah, that's how I feel hearing about it again. I just want to just so I have just like a little squeeze guy, a little just some coping techniques over here. It'll be okay. It's going to be okay.
But do you recognize as she's telling the story, I'm starting to put together some of these patterns that we're kind of trying to educate ourselves on. Like, hey, we've established that, you know, abuse starts with control, coercive control, and then there's, you know, then it kind of escalates from there to these different phases and different levels of control to a point
Right.
of
It's all about that.
do you kind of see all of these patterns? When you hear victim positioning and when you hear Darvo, when you hear gaslighting and when you hear, like, I don't know about you, but I can like see as Jen's talking through these stories, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the spiritual manipulation, which is pretty
They play
prevalent,
in my
obvious, but
mind. Yes, it's
yeah.
everywhere. Yeah. Oh, yeah. As she's talking, they're playing in my mind. I'm like, that was gaslighting. That was Darvo. He's like doing this under the guise of being concerned, like, but it's not real concern. He must have control in all aspects. I mean, when he first got to your house, he basically wanted to establish who is in control, like, as soon as he got there. So yeah, but I am all of these things as she's talking about. I'm like, I should start making notes. This happened, this happened, this happened, and naming all the vocab.
Yeah, then you heard like the fear of retaliation, like that was real.
Hmm.
Like when as people listen to this and they hear this part of the story, the fear of retaliation with the garage and their son, like Nehemiah was like, yeah, let's go right now. But that
Yeah.
crippling fear of retaliation, like what, like, and they were all legitimate fears.
Right.
We don't know DV's hard to prove, and if there's not physical marks when police are called, who knows what's going to happen. And if somebody's really good at charming other people, you don't know what kind of personality that the police officer is going to have. Is he more of a male dominant figure? Are they going to see more eye to eye, like as far as like, oh, this crazy, she's just like, you don't know. And I'm sure women, because your brains are spaghetti, like you guys are thinking like all this. Like the men don't think that way. We're like compartmentalize things. We're like, let's take this thought. This is in this bucket. We don't think what's in this bucket. Y'all are like, have like the network of all the buckets together on one big spaghetti thing. So you're thinking about all the different things in all the other buckets. So I can only imagine what goes through your head when you're thinking like, when people are in these positions where they're like, oh man, I'm trapped. I don't know how to get out. I want to get out, but I'm too scared to get out because what happens if X, Y, or Z, I'm going to get the crap beat out of me because of, man.
Yeah. So that's generally when women figure out that they need to plan their exits, that it can't just be quick, you have your keys in your pocket, let's run out the door. That's actually not a very safe way to go about it, because when the abusive person loses control, or control starts to slip, that's when they become more dangerous. That's why leaving is the most dangerous time to be in an abusive relationship. So you should always plan your exit. You squirrel away money a little bit at a time. You see if you can find a job that works for you. If you need a car, line up housing. You need to have all this stuff going on in the background, unnoticeable, while you are still wearing the happy mask for everyone, because you can't let them know that you're on to them or anything. You have to completely pretend everything is all hunky-dory, and as you're planning your exit.
But you say that as well, but there are also folks like, I don't think Jenn planned her exit at all.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
she
no, I'm
may
not
have a
saying
little
you
bit, like she
have
may have had a
to.
couple hours, like,
Right.
but when Nehemiah is saying, let's go, let's leave, and then Bill comes back out, which cuts that conversation off. There was no plan made. Somewhere
Right,
along
yeah.
the night, a plan had to have been formulating in Jenn's brain, and I don't want to speak for her. She could tell her own what that was, but I don't know what the plan was. It just like, so after he came back and like, Nehemiah straightened you out, y'all went back to work for a while, right? Is that when the phone got out and the recording started?
Yes. Yes. I kicked myself for not thinking of this prior, because I could have recorded a myriad of screaming matches. This isn't screaming back and forth because I couldn't say anything, but where like he would keep me up all night screaming at me. This happened on multiple occasions. Every single time you went back to Louisville, I knew that I was going to be up all night getting screamed at. So, I don't know why I never thought of recording any of the other times, but this particular time, it hit me. Get your phone out and hit record and just put it in your back pocket. And I did that, and I just prayed that it would continue to record no matter what happened. It wouldn't shut off, and that he would not take my phone and somehow discover that I was recording. Oh my goodness, I was so scared. But I did have the sense it had to have been God and like the Holy Spirit just being like, you need to record this. So I did, and I put the phone in my back pocket and I just went along. So before he came back into the garage, I told Nehemiah, I'm not leaving this house without all the kids. That's just my red line. So maybe we could maybe we can make a plan, and in the next few days or next week or something, we can get out. Maybe we can do that. But it's going to take some time, Nehemiah. Like, I can't just up and leave. And so, he came in, that whole thing happened. When he said that to me, and I recognized that this was God answering my prayer. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be okay. Literally, an immediate peace came over my heart. Like I still had fear. I was still afraid. The whole night I was still afraid because I was really like, man, I think he might actually beat me tonight. The way he was talking, he kept threatening it all night long. But I just thought, you know what? Even if he does, this is it. I'm getting out of here. So I did continue on with the night, and Nehemiah did too, with a sense of peace, that it was soon going to be over, and I was just biding my time. Nehemiah stayed right by my side the whole time. He would not let me out of his sight. So, but that didn't stop his dad from showing his full true colors to Nehemiah in that night. Nehemiah got to experience in one night what I had been experiencing for 6 weeks. So the whole night he was just yelling at, I just kept making mistake after mistake, and my attitude. And it's just, all of his complaints just kept going and talking about women, and he brought up Amanda, and he just kept complaining about Amanda and our stepmother and you women, and I really should beat you, and I should beat Amanda. I should just beat Amanda because John won't do it. And
That's called assault, people. Just
yes. So I told Nehemiah at one point, when we were able to be alone for 2 seconds, I'm like, okay, we will go to the police. Like, we're going to do this, but we're not leaving this house without the kids. So we have to wait until he falls asleep, and then we'll get the kids and we'll go. So I knew that he has insomnia, and he could stay up working all night long. So I knew it was going to be a long haul. This was maybe around 2:30 that this garage incident happened, 2:30 in the morning. And just to bring the alcohol back into the picture, because you brought it back up, because I forgot about this. But you're right. It was increasing exponentially as well and getting worse. And he was like drinking all the time. He was always adding that stuff to his drink. I think he always had it by this point. And he, a week or two before this, he bought a breathalyzer. And this was to show that he could handle his alcohol, and that he could handle his alcohol and not go over the legal limit. And this was all to prove that he could drink without it being a problem. So that weekend, he showed me on it a couple of times where he went a little bit over, and he was like, I better stop and I better eat something to get this down. I got to get this back into control. And so that night he had showed me that it was over the limit, not by a little bit, but it was like, okay, like you're pretty tipsy, like you need to just chill out. So yes, you're right. That was a factor. So
now, mind you, when I say the alcohol thing, I'm not saying that to excuse the behavior.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Just, I want everybody to know that I'm not bringing up the alcohol to excuse what alcohol effects do to some people's personality. There's no excuse.
Right. No excuse, but it was a factor. I honestly don't think it would have changed anything if he was sober. So Nehemiah and I just kept working, did whatever he wanted, just kept dealing with all of his screaming, and he finally fell asleep. He went to his computer around 9:00 in the morning, and that's when he went to his computer, he wanted to text everybody. He wanted to, send everybody their novels of how terrible they are and how the relationship with God is terrible and they need to shape up. And so he started doing this, and he fell asleep in the chair. So by 9:30, like, we waited for a while to make sure he was good and asleep. So by 9:30, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's out for the count. So I was like, don't make a noise. We are going to gather some things together and put it in the car. And then, like, just essentials, couple days of clothes, some toothpaste, whatever. Essentials. We're going to put that in the car, and then we're going to wake the kids up. When we woke them up, I was literally like, do not say anything. Okay? We are going to get in the car and we're going to drive away, and you are not allowed to speak. Don't make a sound until I say it's okay. And they did. They were good. So we got them all into the car, and Nehemiah and I mean, we are rushing. We are just thinking that at any minute he's going to wake up and catch us, and we're deathly afraid. And like if he catches us trying to sneak out, he's going to go off. And yeah, the fear was at the max at this point, because of everything that Steph said. I mean, I knew that was. I mean, I didn't even know all these abuse dynamics. I didn't have any vocabulary for any of this. I didn't know that this was a real thing. I didn't even know if this wasn't even happening in my own head. But I just knew that that had to have been the most dangerous time if he caught us leaving. So we literally snuck out of that driveway. We took my car and Nehemiah's car, and we just went to Walmart. I was like, I don't know what to do. We sat in the parking lot. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And that's when he called you. I think he had started texting you a little bit before that, like maybe around 5-ish a.m. or something. And I wanted him to give you a hint as to what was happening, and things were going bad, but I didn't want his dad to take his phone. I didn't want him to notice that he was texting, and I was afraid of him seeing either of our phones. So we kept it very minimal, and I think Nehemiah kind of probably couched some of it to you and kind of tried to give you like subliminal message through that text message, but not outright say, Dad's lost his mind and we're afraid for our safety. Just in case he would have taken the phone and seen that.
I think I recall some text. Mind you, this was early in the morning that this is happening. And there was some subliminal text that I didn't get right away. And I think he even called me and I got a missed call or something like that. And then the text that really got me like, okay, something's going on, was he texted me something like Dad went ballistic. And that's when I called Nehemiah back. You guys were still sitting in the parking lot at Walmart. He called Nehemiah. He explained to me very high level what had happened. And I just I showed up. I went to our project lead at the time. I'm like, I gotta go. And he kind of knew a little bit of what was going on, like with our situation. Cause I was always under pressure and under stress at work, and not for the things at work. And then there were things that were going on at home. And he was a guy that I was just able to talk to about stuff just to blow off some steam. So he kind of had a sense that I'm like, I gotta go. My brother-in-law just went nuts. I don't know what's going on. I need to get back there. He's like, go. And we had a busy show going that day. He's just like, go. So it literally takes me about 2.5 hours to get from where we live, just south of Dayton, Ohio, to Louisville whenever I traveled. I was in a little Ford Focus, and I think I made it from Louisville to my new house in 1 hour and 45 minutes. I was flying, and it was just by the grace of God that there was no state troopers on the freeway that morning, because I think I was doing at some point a $110, just freaking cruising down the freeway. Because I'm like, all right, and I'm talking to Nehemiah, and I'm like, okay, can't stay in Walmart parking lot. Just start, because that's the first place he's going to look if he wakes up and you're not there. He's going to go to familiar places. I go, just drive the 270. I think it's 275, 295, whatever the loop is around. I'm like, just drive the loop, okay, and wait till I get there, and we'll figure this out, right? So just drive the loop. And the whole time I'm driving back, in my head, am like, what am I going to do? Because I'm obviously furious that this had happened. And of course, the protection sheepdog in me, the brotherly instincts, all that stuff, those emotions are flying through me. And I don't even know where Amanda was at this time, because she wasn't at the new house when I got there. I don't know if she was, I don't know. I don't even know if I called her. I just was in like, what am I going to do mode? And I, as I'm driving, I'm like, if I confront him, I might kill him. Okay, I mean, that does nobody any good. Okay, so what to do? What to do? And I realized that I'm a Second Amendment guy. I love my Second Amendment, and I knew that I had just moved all the guns from the rental property to the new house. Obviously, Bill knew where the new house was because he helped negotiate that. And I'm like, and it's not. I mean, at that point, we just moved in. To get into that house at the time wouldn't have been hard whatsoever. So I'm like, the first place I'm going is I'm going to go to the new house and make sure that the guns are still there. Whether he's at the old house or not, I just want to make sure they're there, because if they're missing, we got a real problem. We got a real problem. So I burned to the new house. Guns are still there. I'm like, cool. Now what do I do? Mind you, the old house is 2 blocks away. It is not. It's in the same neighborhood. And I'm like, do I go over there or don't I go over there? Based on what I know, because I didn't know the whole story. I just knew, I just got the cliff notes from Nehemiah. I decided it's probably best for everybody if I just called the police, which I did. And I brought them to they came to my new house first, because I'm like, y'all need to come over here because the situation had happened. If I confront this dude, y'all going to have bigger issues because you might have a homicide on your hands. And I think I said something to that effect when I called the police. So literally within 4 minutes, an officer shows up in my house, and I invite him in, explain what's going on, tell him I can't go over there. I rent the property, all this. And he's like, what do you want us to do? I'm like, well, at the least I want him out of the house. I want him out of the house. He goes, well, based on what you've told me, you should probably have your sister drive to the police station. I'm like, okay, I'll get a hold of her. I'll have them drive to the police station so they can file a report and all that. And, police, they do their due diligence, and they didn't just go over there right away. I think, Jenn ended up showing up to the police department and gave her statement, all that stuff. And they had enough to just go over there and not even talk to him, just to go put him in cuffs. They had enough to just go put him in cuffs based on the statements, some of the evidence that they saw, Nehemiah's statement, my statement, Jenn's statement. They had enough just to go get him out of the house and go put him in cuffs. So they did that. Now he's out of the house. But you have this, you would think that because that happened, police were called, he is now removed from the property, removed from the house, that the fear and the anxiety and all that, it just goes away because you escaped. He's now in the hands of the authorities. But I mean, I don't think the fear stopped there. It's well, what happens now? What happens when he gets out? What kind of retaliation is there going to be? What kind of this, what kind of that? And I think it was by the grace of God that the things, how that whole situation transpired once he was in jail, from, we were able to get the protection orders pretty much immediately, which barred him from contacting anybody or coming close to any of us, and we all got it. I got one for me, my wife, my family. Jenn obviously got one for her and all the kids. He wasn't allowed to come near us. And this all happened before he was even, technically released. But, the story continues with, court, and then there's, the court system and the judges, and, here, and this is probably a couple weeks later, but he's been in jail this whole time, skipping a lot of details over. Jenn could probably fill in the gaps with, then now Jenn and the kids come live in my house. But before that even happens, now, Amanda's filled in on all this stuff. And, mind you, I just hear that, he was threatening, he was abusive and all that. I haven't seen the house yet and what it looked like. I didn't know there were construction projects going on. But then I get to the house and see everything that was going on in that house from a remodeling standpoint, is what we'll call it. and thinking to myself, how the heck am I going to explain this to my landlord? Like, this is the guy I remember who was pretty nitpicky about his house and painting the walls of he wanted like you to get his permission just to paint the walls. And he wanted to know what color and what shade and all this stuff. And he wanted to be able to prove it. And I was fully on board with doing that whole process of that. Like, I don't care about paint color walls, but when you walk into that house and you see paint, walls painted, and not just painted, but like knocked down textures, and just the garage floor was half painted. It's like, who paints a garage floor? And just all this stuff. Now I have to like call the landlord and be like, okay, I need you to come to the house. I need to explain stuff. And that's a whole nother story that's kind of off topic from this story. But long story short, landlords are completely understanding, totally cool. They're like, just, they gave us a list of things to fix. And, but they were completely graceful, completely cool. Like, I even got my deposit back, which was unheard of. But we fixed it and we got it and we made it better. We closed out that rental of that house. And, the story as far as that house on Mission Lane, that chapter of our lives closed with that house. And, shout out to the landlords, Rob and Kim. I won't say the last name, but they were great landlords, completely understanding. And, now we're kind of moving on from the chapter. Jen and the kids are living in my house, and because, where else are they going to go? The problem child has been removed from the situation. So me and Amanda are like, we can't really like not let them stay with us. So we kind of moved it from there. But hon, I don't know. Where were you when this whole thing was happening? I don't remember where you were at.
I was at church that morning, and you told me not to come home.
Okay. So this was a Sunday.
Yeah. The second time you were told not to go into your house.
Yeah.
This time you listened, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
Sunday by the time we got to this point. Yes. Mhm.
And then I would say the rest is history. But I mean, that's the majority. That's the bulk of your story, is just like, I mean, there was things after that. You had to contend with, the quote unquote trial, whatever. And he took a plea deal or something like that, which he pled guilty to assault, and they dismissed the domestic violence charges. He spent 30 or 45 days in jail or something like that, and got out. And I can't, I mean, we still had the protection orders in place, because those were in place for a while, weren't they?
Yeah, the judge granted me I think yours was shorter. I don't remember how long yours was, but mine was a 3-year no contact order. So no contact whatsoever with me or the kids. 3 years.
Yeah. Ended up working out for you. Like, if anybody, like, your escape, I'll call it, I mean, because it was a legitimate escape. Your escape, like, ended being with a no contact order for 3 years, which I don't want to put words in your mouth, but probably took a lot of that fear away, because he was no longer technically legally allowed to contact you. Now, there's also the fear of he doesn't really honor that. But we had done some things at our house. We beefed up security. We bought security cameras. We got more security cameras. We kind of went through the ringer of like beefing up security and kind of being on high alert all the time, which got exhausting. But then we just tried to rebuild. Yes, we just tried to rebuild and kind of move on from this. And at the court hearings and couple, time in jail and stuff like that, he eventually gets released and arranges to get some of his stuff back from the house, because he still had his van. And we had very nicely and respectfully packed up like all of what was his, like his personal stuff. And we had neatly packed it in bins, and like, we weren't disrespectful to his property.
We put things
And we
in
put it
plastic bins, not just
plastic
cardboard
bins.
boxes. We
Yeah.
did not want the rain to, and we put it under a shelter too. And I believe we even covered it with blankets or a tarp or something. We made sure that stuff was not going to get destroyed by weather or animals.
Yeah. It was protected under the back patio, the back porch, which is a fully covered porch. And then plastic bins with lids. And then I think I even covered it with the tarp just so no critters, like we didn't want critters or anything like that to get in there. But, you know, there was maybe half a dozen bins that of his stuff that was there. And then we packed up, we cleaned up the house. We packed the house, we repainted what we needed to repaint. We sanded walls we needed to resand. We cleaned everything up. We finished painting the garage floor. We got all the stuff out. His stuff remained in the back until he got released. I think his van stayed in the driveway till he got out. And then he went and got his stuff and packed in his van, and don't know where he went from there. But we didn't hear, I mean, at least we didn't have any other, there wasn't any further altercation after that. There was just court and restraining orders. And, you know, when that stuff was up and there was some visitation stuff that, I don't know, kind of bringing it all to today, like we can continue the story to say what happened between after that to today. But as far as the relevance of like telling your story, I think everybody gets the gist. And unless there's any gaps you wanted to fill in there at the end, like there's always more to tell because he's still around. But the story of the escape, what led up to it, you know, 18 years of marriage, the pattern recognition, the buildup, all of this comes to a scenario where you're sneaking out of the house, hoping he doesn't wake up because of the patterns that you guys were experiencing. And if it wasn't for Nehemiah kind of just like stepping up and having that light bulb moment in the garage when he had him pinned against the wall, like, just play along, bud, just play along, get him, you know, to convincing you like, yeah, we need to go. I could see this going a completely different direction had that not.
Yeah, for sure. Had I stayed with him, I mean, the pattern was already, you know, it was progressively worse and worse and worse, literally every single week. The physical violence started 1 month before because I kind of mentally counted that's been 4 weeks. And every week he was physically violent. So, and it was getting worse. You know, first it was just like grabbing my neck. And then the next time he did it, it was harder. And then the next time he did it, it was like while spitting in my face and while pushing me around the garage. You know, doing everything but actually fist punching me or slapping me, or, you know, it was doing everything but that. And then I figured, you know what? Like, I saw this ramping up week to week to week. It got worse. And I was like, I know that had I stayed in that situation any longer, we were very close to it crossing the line into all out. He was going to follow through with his threats and he was going to beat me. And I'm sure at first it wouldn't be like, you know, blood and broken bones, but, you know, probably would have just been, you know, him slapping me across the face. But that was the direction it was heading. Had I not gone out, that's where it would have gone. You know, I didn't want the kids growing up thinking that this was normal or okay. I didn't want my daughter thinking that that is how she should expect her boyfriend's husband, you know, to treat her and to accept that. I didn't want my boys learning that this is how you treat women, you know, having girlfriends and treating them like this, or, you know, getting married and thinking that this is okay. So, but, you know, had we not gotten out, that's where we would be. Because I was just so broken and I was so brainwashed and I was so hiding and so just everything that had God not stepped in through Nehemiah and had it not gone exactly the way that it went, I can't say that the situation would have changed. I mean, I think I would still be there. It would be bad. It would be really bad. And the level of control that he needed and was increasing. So, I mean, a person gets to the point where like you can't give anything else. And the fact that I was already doing everything wrong, there was nowhere else for it to go but more physical violence.
Except bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, except extremely bad. And I mean, yeah,
Right.
I was afraid. I was afraid after he got arrested. Like, I was glad that he got arrested, but I was pretty sure, this whole time I am just full of misconceptions about how this stuff is handled. I don't really know how it's handled. I just assume, based on, I don't know, TV or whatever I've heard. And, I thought, okay, well, it's great that he got arrested, but 2 days from now, when he gets out, because they're just gonna slap him on the wrist, because he doesn't have a pattern or I mean, like, he doesn't have an arrest record. There's no record. To the police, to the law, he looks like a good guy, and he just has this mishap. And so I thought, well, he's gonna be back, and, that's when hell will come to me. That's when I get beat. Like, every step I'm thinking, I'm just putting this inevitability off a little bit longer. And, I mean, to my amazement, we got that immediate no contact order, no that restraining order. It was like they gave that to us that night. And that was just to get us to trial. And then once we got to the hearing, the judge granted the 3 years, no contact, no visitation, nothing. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like, I think I might be good now. Like, safe, like, finally safe. But then we did go through that whole the whole household was afraid. I mean, we were constantly looking behind our shoulders and ramping up security and like just all it took a while for that to wear off. And I mean, if we get into any more, it's another phase of the story and another 3 hours, because I mean, there's more. And I had there's a lot of pieces that I had to put back together, and I kind of fell off the rails, and there was a lot that had to get worked out of me from all of that garbage that got pumped into me. All that brainwashing had to be rewired, and it took a large process. And I mean, to sum it up, God brought me through it. Hands down, cannot give any credit to anything else. It was God, and I cannot deny it. I can't deny that God was there for me, constantly telling me that he loved me, and the things that, my husband had convinced me of were all lies. So I have, that's the good part of the story, honestly, like how I came through all of that. And it was a good 2-3 year process, but at the end of it was I mean, God put the broken pieces back together in a completely different way. And yes, I am remarried, and he's not anything like that. And he's stepped in to be a good stepdad to the kids, and has not tried to replace their father. Even says, I'm not your father. I'm not trying to replace your father, but I'm definitely here to pick up where he left off and like finish raising you. And so I think God was really looking out for all of us, not just me. But he really saved the kids from a lot of things too, of just not having a dad around. So there's been a lot that God has done.
Yeah, and it's a testament to power of God, and that we cannot even begin to fathom the types of plans and stuff that he has for us, and how he just takes a situation that seems hopeless and completely turns it around to victory. Like your situation you're in now with your new husband and the kids love him and you love him. I freaking love the dude. He's nothing like Bill, and he is legit stand-up dude. You'd have never met him if none of this would have happened. But I think, the whole adage of like, God uses something so heinous and he turns it for good. And none of us I couldn't even begin looking back to like try to guess where this could have went for the better or for the worse. And I couldn't have even guessed that the situation you're in now, like there's no way I would have been able to predict where you're at now in life. There's just no predicting it. So like, I think your story is a testament to the possibilities of people that are in these toxic relationships with these people, we'll call them people, and feeling trapped and stuck and afraid of trying to get out when they know deep down their heart they need to get out, but they just don't know how. And, if we would have known about these terms and these patterns and these signs, if I would have known about them back then, I might have been able to pick up on this a lot sooner, regardless of whether you even gave me a hint or not, which is one of the reasons why we're doing all this, is to help people see patterns and see signs with real stories of real people and everything that they've gone through, because every story is different and every situation is different. Jen's story is different is different than Steph's story, and which is different from my story, which is different from anybody else's story. They're all going to be different, and they're all going to have learning points to talk about. And I know when we get into the next episode, we're going to start getting into Steph's, her personal story with the things that she went through in her abusive relationships, plural. So, but I do want to open the floor to Steph, because you haven't talked in a while, and I know any, final thoughts, anything you'd like to, say to potentially people that could be in Jen's situation, their fear, how they get out, stuff like that. Like, do you have any parting wisdom? And then we'll go ahead and wrap this.
Yeah, of course, my computer just decided to do something weird as it's my turn to talk. Okay, so I'm sorry. Say your last question again. My computer just did a silly thing. Say your last question again.
Oh, just final thoughts on folks, women who might be in Jen's situation or in the situation struggling with the fear of retaliation, getting out, like all of that from your perspective. Just any parting wisdom for people potentially in, what amounts to be what Jen's situation was. There are people in that situation today. What would be some parting wisdom from you?
So my best advice for anybody who is in a situation like this or one similar is to educate yourself as best you can. Jump on Google, jump on ChatGPT, type in example, this happened, is this abuse? Start your researching journey. My biggest light bulb was when I first Googled, is this abuse? And then all this stuff came up and I'm like, he does that, he does that, he does that, he does that. And as soon as that perspective switch happens in your brain, that fear, while it is still present, it is also backed with purpose now. So you have some motivation to help you to take the next step forward. I encourage anybody to talk to a trusted family member or loved one or a domestic violence advocate in your area. They will help so much, guide you to the right resources. They will help you safely plan your exit.
They will. And I know one of the resources that you have just been caught onto was the domestic violence railroad and the whole QR code thing. Like, I didn't know that existed.
Yes.
Real quickly walk through that just so we can kind of wrap a bow on this. If you need to get out, here's a resource right away. Here could be a takeaway.
Yeah, perfect. So the Domestic Violence Railroad was started by someone named Sarah Smile in June of 2025. And basically, it is a group of survivors that all work together to help domestic abuse survivors that are either still in it or just getting out of their relationship. And what happens is you scan a QR code, it takes you to their website. You end up getting put on a WhatsApp conversation that's local to your area. So you could jump on as, let's just say I'm in the abusive relationship. I could jump on and say, hey, I need to get out tonight. He's going to go to work in 30 minutes. Help. And they can have an Uber come and pick you up and take you somewhere safe, or they can deliver clothes for your kids or any other kind of resources you may need. And that is all over the United States. In all 50 states, you can go on this website and get on this WhatsApp conversation and be able to talk to local survivors in your area.
So with that said, if anybody out there is experiencing any of this now and you need to get out, go check out the Domestic Violence Railroad. They'll get you out and they will get you set up and they will get you the help you need. And it can all be as anonymous as you want it, because it's just a WhatsApp group. That's all it is. So no phone calls, no interviews. I know interviews take forever. Like if, getting interviewed for housing, like some people just need to get out tonight. They will allow you to get out tonight and then give you then you'll have the space to set up those interviews for that longer term shelter and housing and things like that. So experiencing that, check out the Domestic Violence Railroad. But for now, guys, that's going to do it for us. That's going to do it. We're going to wrap this here. And then, like I said, in the next episode, episode 5, we're going to be talking with Steph about her relationship, plural. And then we'll go from there. So guys, if you found any enjoyment in this, I know this is not a video that you potentially get enjoyment out of, but if you connect with it, if you're in this situation, if you're like, yes, I can resonate this, I've been where she was at, go ahead and leave a comment below. Or if you want to get in contact with us to tell us your story, shoot us a DM, shoot us a comment. We'll get back to you. We'll set something up, talk to you. If you'd like to come on the podcast, share your story about your survival story, we are all about that. So for now, guys, I want to say once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Fortified podcast. If you enjoy